welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering. There's also PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out, thanks, and appreciation to Guns of Navarone, RMP, Troy Shuker, Bosnail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'm going to raise the mic on whoever is in Google and Discord so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show. What, sorry?
They're complaining about this show.
Who's complaining about this show?
A few people that were on here before, and they claim that the Discord server, they don't like the Discord server there. People get on and then nobody can get in and they don't even participate. So, I said, well, I'll say something today. If you're not going to participate, then, make some room so other people can get in. I know Anthony's tried to do it a couple of times, Sleeping Warrior. He's coming in just like, if you're not going to participate, he started kicking people out. I know because he was kicking me out constantly. That was when I just started coming in.
But he should have participated. What's the problem?
I was trying. He kept kicking me out and I kept jumping back in. He didn't know who I was.
Fair enough. Didn't actually get that involved with the Discord server. I trust the moderators.
That's what I told him.
Again?
Well, it's Crit too, and I told him, I said, Righteous is alone there right now. Why don't you go over there and talk to him? Go find out what's going on, settle your differences, and move on. He said he's tried, so,
Exactly. Just sort it out with the moderators. They're doing a job and they're doing it very well. If you don't like what they're doing, you need to take it up with them, right?
Exactly. And I said, why are you concerned with the after show that nobody hears? Who gives a shit what they talk about there? They come on, they got an opportunity to come on a live show that's on YouTube. They don't come on. What does that tell you? They wait till even the after show was over. He said, yeah, then they come out and they make fun of all of you. I said, wow, and who hears it? Themselves? So,
Like you say, who cares? People want to, spend hours and hours and hours arguing after the fact. That's their business, right?
Yeah, I used to go there, and then I said, what the hell am I doing? Nobody's hearing this.
Where's that?
The after show. When they all come out and laugh at us, supposedly, and mock Nathan and mock all of us.
It makes them feel a little bit better for just a few seconds.
Well, it's a live show. They could come on now. If anybody's in Discord, they can challenge anything. Just here, you got the housekeeping questions. It's put right out there for you every day. Somebody give me an answer.
Their very best came, their very best died. All that's left is those that still want to keep the lie alive in the after show.
Yeah, they get to share their pain there. Wow, good for them.
Yeah,
Their
that's
pain
fine.
sounds
They need
like,
a place.
oh, Nathan's stupid. Okay, well, if that makes you feel a bit better for a few minutes, more power to you.
Oh, then he said that's what he said because I was on the show Friday. I was on a pre-show because I remember I was driving, and Crit was saying that you're saying that you don't get enough super chats. I said I didn't hear him say that.
Oh, if I haven't said it or it's not quotable, I don't get enough super chats. There you go. Put quotes around it. Feel
There
free.
you go. I told him, I said, well, Nathan holds no bones about it. He says that's how he makes a living. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, I
They
don't.
say he could be
See,
controlled opposition.
That
this
could be
is
a-
exactly
Controlled opposition. He could be there. I said, well, if he is, then Nathan Oakley's one of the greatest actors I've ever spoke to.
Oh, well, thank you
well,
very
He's
much.
listen,
controlled opposition.
I really
this
appreciate
is
that. Thank you very much.
I'm sure this is exactly what they want us to talk about.
They want to make it about personalities and individuals rather than about the
Yeah.
argument. That's it. It's just an ad hominem attack. Attack the man rather than the argument. That's all it is.
Yeah, so they get you talking about that instead of the real thing.
Or the format of the show, again, rather than the argument. In terms of my living, I laid this out last week, right? Because Pete and Peter had a little bash. And I think they tried to have a little bash at me to keep it looking even-handed when having a bash at Craig fight the Flat Earth. Like, okay, well, if you're going to draw comparisons, obviously I'm going to pipe up and give my 2 pennyworth about how you've addressed me earning a bloody living. Yeah, their attitude is.
Here's the question.
Hey, Paul.
Okay, Paul.
Hey.
Go ahead, Paul.
Does a physics professor in a school that's teaching physics earning a living teaching physics?
Yeah.
So are they critical of them that they're in their profession teaching something, because they have a bias because they've been teaching physics?
Yeah, but they're
They
teaching
get
what?
paid to do it.
Yeah, but they're teaching something that they agree with. In
Okay,
this
let's
case,
look at
though,
another thing.
in this case, it's Pete and Peter who are on our side allegedly.
Oh, I must have missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah, Pete and Peter are being critical and drawing comparisons between people like myself and people like Fight the Flat Earth who have a financial motivation. And I do. I've never denied it once. That changed my passion for the subject uncovering? No.
No, not only that, but there's a bunch of YouTube channels that have super chats on various subjects, and no one complains about that.
Most of them, if they're on here for commercial reasons, i.e. they're trying to make money from it. But why wouldn't you, though? Most people commercialise their time if they're sensible. They make money, not necessarily commercialise it, but, they turn it into a profit if they can. Well, to me, it seems stupid if you've got a channel that's commercially viable, that is to say that you could put commercials on it and have it earn you some money. Why wouldn't you? You'd be a fool not to, as far as I'm concerned. Many people might say, no, when you're covering the truth, it's okay that everyone on your competitor's side that's indoctrinating kids with this nonsense about the sky vacuum or whatever, it's okay for them to be paid, but for you to disagree with it, well, you should do that for free. All right, should I? Get lost.
There's nobody doing anything for free in this world.
So such a dumb argument.
Well, just to put balance into it, they also made the argument that this is their real argument, and they're just using me for contrast to seem balanced, but their real argument is Craig has offered them a position to debate them. Now, after a little bit of a think, they'd looked at it and gone, well, he's commercialising our time. Well, if that's the case, then it's only reasonable that we ask to be paid. In other words, if you're going to be sitting there taking donations, i.e. super chats, and getting paid for the commercial viability of the video once it's published, then I want to cut that. If you're taking up our time, then I want to be paid. Now that I see as totally reasonable. It's like, that's your prerogative. If that is how you want to approach it. In other words, I'm not going to give up my time for you to make money and me not to. That's not reasonable. Now, for some people it is, for whatever reason. In this instance, they're saying it's not. And I say, more power to you. That's a perfectly legitimate reason to say no. Because that's the case, right? He's commercialised. But then they compare it to me. And it's like, no, I'm not twisting anybody's arm. I have not invited specifically anybody ever to come here. That's not how I do things. I say the doors are open, all are welcome, come if you want to. There is absolutely no obligation to attend or give me money. Neither are an obligation to anybody watching. Same with everybody in the panel. Nobody's obliged to be here. They're here by choice.
Smash the super chat.
Are you sure you're not twisting my arm to be here, Nathan?
Quite the contrary. When someone the other week, Brian was like, "Oh, I think it was Brian, or it might have been father of a stolen child. I think it was actually John." It's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry I wasn't here yesterday." I'm like, "Why are you apologising? There's absolutely no obligation for you to come at all ever." So don't say, "I'm really sorry I wasn't there yesterday." It's like, I'm not your master. You know, for a start, as rightly correctly pointed out by Pete and Peter, I'm not paying him, so there's no obligation whatsoever. You know, there's no timetable for him to have to adhere to. Nothing like that. You don't have to do anything, right?
So Pete and Peter are comparing it to your show, but they're the ones asking Fight the Flat Earth to get paid if they come on his show.
Well, I think they've been, from what I could glean, they've been invited to debate on his show. Well, upon invitation, they've said, well, this isn't like a friendly invitation. It's a commercial invitation. Therefore, let's make it what it is and presumably get measures in place to make sure that we don't get stiffed or whatever, you know, and you say, okay, fine. It's then become a commercial transaction. Fine.
Right.
I agree with them. They should be paid. They should split the super
hang
chat.
on.
Oh, I don't go
hang
too
on.
far. No, I don't agree with that. Right. No, not necessarily. You know, why should Craig have to? Don't make me defend Craig's position, but God damn you.
I'll defend Craig's position. No one needs to pay nobody if that's not their format of their show to begin with.
Why?
Originally.
They're making money off them being on there.
Okay.
Well, they don't have to come on.
Okay.
Then don't
Likewise, Neil, Vice approached me. And of course I mentioned, well, am I going to get paid? No, you're not going to get paid. We'll cover your expenses. I was like, okay, fine. As long as I'm not out of pocket. You know, and they did. They covered my train fare down there, and I didn't take the car. It was easier to get on the tube, so they paid for that. And I didn't make any money out of it, but I didn't lose any. And I was happy with that. But they made money. Obviously, they've made it into a commercial video, and they've publicised it. But that's perfectly acceptable. Moreover, when they put the contract in front of me, I read it and said, yeah, that's okay. Yes, I understand. I have no rights to the video. That's fine. No problem. I'll get the publicity out of it. That's what I want. I'm on Vice. Wonderful. That's good for me.
I see your point.
Let me share an example here. So whenever in America a sporting event happens and there's a winner, if it's an individual sport, the late night shows want to interview that individual. So if they win something on a Sunday, they're on that late night show that week. And they go, oh, we got the new champion, and then they announce him. Now, obviously, the expenses, the travel, all that is paid. Maybe they even get paid for coming on. But there's another thing. They get exposure. So if Pete and Peter go to Fight the Flat Earth show, they're going to get exposure for free because people are going to know who they are, their channels and all that. And if they want to get paid, and they can, if that's Craig's prerogative. But if Craig says, no, I'm not going to pay you, but you get a lot of exposure by coming on my show, now they have a choice. Do they want the exposure and not get paid, or they can just decline it?
Exactly.
Why is it even an argument?
Exactly. But they did, you know, they put that across, but they were critical when he put that to him or them in a comment on the video that they were discussing that was Craig's. And they're like, his response I read, and I thought he's perfectly reasonable in his response, saying you'll get exposure, and, you know, that's kind of how YouTube works. You know, it's encouraged. Collaboration is encouraged. So what you want? You know, if you don't want that, you know, kind of get lost. Tough luck, you know.
Oh, looking at it from that way, I see your point.
Yeah,
So
kind of like, go on.
Isn't the old adage true? Even bad publicity is publicity.
I studied that. I looked into that a couple of years ago, actually, because I used to say it in the way you just said it, and I don't think it's necessarily true in such a broad manner. I think long term, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So if you had that little caveat, I'd agree. But short term, you can definitely have detrimental publicity short term, absolutely, without question.
But it's
Well,
free.
that was NWA. They first came out. NWA. That's what their motto was. All publicity is good publicity.
NWA as in niggers with attitude.
That's correct.
Their publicity attitude was to say all publicity is good publicity. So even if we get caught throwing a TV through a hotel room window, that's good publicity. I can kind of see that if you've got a rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, well, they were some bad boys there.
But by the same token, you know, if if one of the guys from NWA was caught being a fraudster, right? Well, short term, they're in the headlines, and very short term, that's absolutely without question detrimental. But if they were out of the public eye for however many years, and then there's this fraud thing, and then a few years later, when everyone forgets because people are really fickle, then it'll just mean that he's been kept in the forefront of people's mind by way of bad publicity, which will help long term. Not always. There are exceptions to every rule, of course. There are limits.
Can you take the next 10 minutes before the show starts and summarize this Einstein's field theory of one mass? I heard it last week towards the end. I wasn't able to take strong notes on it, but they can't do the moon and the sun at the same time, or the earth and the moon at the same time. They can you
Einstein's
just cover
field
that?
equations can only calculate for one mass at a time. One mass. Not two.
Got it.
Well, that's it. That's the end of it. There is no further explanation needed.
Okay, but what does that mean to their model then? I
Well,
guess is
okay.
what I'm saying.
If I say calculate a force that's being put from one mass to another mass, sounds familiar, then you can't calculate it. That's what it means. So hence, you ask, what's the force with Einstein's field equations calculable on the Earth from the moon to cause the tides? That'd be two masses. Well, it can't do that. The field equations, they can't do it.
Game over.
Game over. It's just it doesn't matter. It was pseudo mathematics to begin with. It's pseudo geometry for a fake world that we don't live in. So yeah, okay, let's rejoice in the fact that it can't cope with more than one body. Well, that's interesting, but by the same token, it's a pseudo geometry for a world we don't live in. But it's an interesting thing to toy with the globe heads, like I did with Rumpus. So that's presumably why you're asking, because that's how I had Rumpus over a barrel last time he was here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because number one, it is a calculation. They could calculate whatever they want. It's a math that doesn't exist, so it's dead there. But then when they limit themselves, and he agreed that Einstein said it's only one mass, and that's when you nailed them. And this last thing you said is a perfect summary.
Yep. I don't like it, though. I don't like arguing within their pseudo-mathematics about what they can and can't do, because they can't really do anything. There's no work being done.
But wasn't, Nathan, wasn't that a flag? Like, wasn't that a red flag? Like, other minds at the time, didn't they see that as a problem?
Who see what as a problem? Be a bit more specific, Neil.
Other scientists, that he couldn't do it for two bodies,
No.
like you're saying.
I'd just do it at
Isn't
one
that
at a
like
time. What do they tell us, Neil, in response? We'll just do it one at a time, or we'll just revert to the three-space model with Newtonian mathematics, because that's perfectly sufficient. And then we can have mass attracting mass and figure it out that way. Or we can do it one at a time.
Yeah,
These two are things...
that way.
Go on.
But they haven't even done it that way.
Then what? There's no work being done in reality. Talking about pseudo-geometry. So if it's got a limitation,
I'm saying
like,
even if they revert back to Newtonian, that they can't prove mass attracting mass there either.
no. Doesn't stop them doing it, though, does it? Well, that's what we saw happen, though, isn't it? I know you're rebutting it, but you're saying, well, you can't do that. You can't revert back to a out-of-date 106-year-old pseudoscience that's not provable in the physical reality, and start pulling apart maybe their experiments. You could go on forever. Yeah,
well,
that's
it's basically them coming out with Newtonian, and Newton said, and we have his writing, that he never asserts gravity at all, big G at all. And so Newton says, don't take my work and say something about it that I don't even accept. So we have Newton saying it, but they believe it all these years up until 1915. So now it's 106 years old. And they say, oh, all of that stuff. Yeah, we were wrong. And Newton was right. Because it wasn't what he was saying. But now it's the four space. So, and now, oh, well, that doesn't work because that only works for one mass at a time. So, okay, to make it work, we're going back to Newton. That doesn't work. That Newton never said it worked. And so there you go.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. if you wrestle with pigs,
Good
you're going to
morning,
get
guys.
dirty, right? And if you
Hey,
give
Chapo.
in to their reification, then you're going to end up getting dirty and in the trenches with them about their models and reifications and how they do or don't work. And yeah, nice to know, but
Well, I think it's important, Nathan, because you dissect their rebuttal into another lie or fabrication, just like you did the very first one. You say, if I'm even going to argue within the begging the question argument, your begging the question argument is so weak that you discarded it. Why would you discard it and now say, bring it back?
I agree. We're at the stage in the argument where, from an educational standpoint, to disseminate the information in such a way that someone could regurgitate it with confidence because they know the reasoning behind the argument, you have to put the opponent's argument and why it's wrong to them within their own whatever fallacy they're using, in this case reification fallacy, because we're talking about gravity, right? Something that doesn't exist in reality. There is no physicality for it, but they reify it into physical existence. So it's reification when you're talking about gravity. Well, explaining how their reification falls on its arse and how it can't calculate for this, that, and the other, whatever's in their model, in this example, gravitational attraction for the tides and the moon, well, that will hopefully cement the idea of why it's wrong, as opposed to the reasoning behind arguing it. Because really, I know we're at the stage where I've got to do that so that people can understand it going forward. Really, I'd prefer that people just didn't need to know that. They just understood that. Why do you need to argue about how a reification fallacy works? You know, admittedly, at trench level with the black swan, it's probably an easier way of explaining it, right? In the black swan, you're getting right into the reification because they refuse to let go. And to the untrained ear, it might be that that's perceived as a win. Well, of course we beg the question of well, they say it with such dogged determination that people who are untrained might say, oh, right, well, that's perfectly reasonable then. It's not, but that's how it might come across. So then you're into, well, we've got to go into the begging the question fallacy. But when it comes to the reification of mathematics with gravity, as much as, for the last 3 years almost, Anthony's been doing this, and I see why, and I get the benefit, personally, I don't see it as necessary. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Pseudo-maths? Why are we arguing about how pseudo-maths might or might not work when it's not real?
Well, for a bystander, someone listening to the show, saying, I like this debate format. I'm going to listen to the show. And then they hear Rumpus come and you or others back and forth with him. They see his best shot. They see our best shot. For them, it's educational because then they actually get to see the reification fallacy played out. Whereas for anyone else who understands what it is, they get it right away and say, well, that was a waste of 20 minutes. You didn't even have to go and argue within the fallacy because you had them with the first one.
Yeah, by luck more than judgment, at the end of it, we got a little disclaimer that we haven't got the imagination for it. Well, you might as well say, you are not very good at reifying non-physical into physical. In other words, you're not following or abiding by my reification of this non-force force that you can think of as a force that's depending on force space but doesn't work with more than one mass. So I'll use the old out-of-date and busted, when people hear that and then they're like, well, I still think it's real, and somebody at the end of it on their own side says, well, you haven't got the imagination for it. It's like, well, that to me is useful because it then demonstrates what I would prefer the direction the argument went in the first place, which is this is just Wonderland. We're talking about abstract mathematics for space-time, something that's not real.
Don't forget pseudo.
Yeah, the geometry is described by the person who invented it as being pseudo because it is. Often the clue is given to you by the text itself or the model. It's telling you right there on the title what it is. It's not the world you live on, it's just a way of modelling it. And some people go, yeah, well, that's okay. It represents the world I live in. No, that's the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. Making that which is not concrete something physical when it isn't. You don't live on a model.
I think you made a good point the other day when you said, if I act as a child, does that make me a child? Comparing it to
Think of you as a child, but no, exactly. Thinking of stuff as being forces and such like, it's just a way of justifying the reification to the person who's reifying it. It doesn't make it real. It doesn't mean that I should have to argue about Narnia and how the gas lamp works. What's that you say? Well, I've been calculating how the gas lamp works in Narnia for a very long time, and it works. No, it doesn't work. There's nothing real about it.
What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Paul, Arwin, Chocolate Saiyan, Flatsoid, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello!
Hey, good morning.
Hey, hey.
It's Monday panel.
Aw, I do love Mondays. Everyone's so much more enthusiastic than towards the end of the week. Happy days.
Good morning.
Hey, Eli. Good to have
I
you.
did miss the show.
You missed the show over the weekend,
Oh,
eh?
1333.
That's right, 13333. When you had a 166, oh, 666 was the last show. I sent you a $6 or €6.66 donation. You got all stroppy about it. I'm like, oh man, I'm giving
So
you
is
money
this
and you're getting moany
amazing?
about it.
Is this a Mason show?
What show? Mason
No.
show. I don't know. Is 333 in some way linked to the Masons?
No. It's only 2 3s. And who cares? Just because they use it doesn't mean it's theirs.
I don't know about that.
Taking it all back. Numbers are ours. It's of the
well,
free people.
We're covered.
What is this, the
Neil's-
Goonies?
Yeah, what's going
we're
on?
covered.
Suddenly we turned
Goonies.
into a conspiracy show.
Taking it back. Taking it all back.
Yeah?
Right, I'm getting out of here. This is going to descend into conspiratard nonsense. Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not since the first Mason.
Well, why would you expect to see such a thing?
Because they claim it blocks
But
boats and
balls-
buildings with their mathematics that they reify into
Have you
existence.
But balls are a perfect shape.
Have you ever looked past a sphere? You should have a geometric horizon. No matter how big or small.
Yeah, that's right. Should be a physical Earth curve obstruction getting in the way if Earth's a sphere. Like a hill getting in the way of stuff, right? Yeah, we haven't got that.
But
Though.
what if you do have one that you don't expect to see? Right? Does that work?
A hill that you don't expect to see.
Why?
He's saying, what if you do have one, but it's not where it's supposed to be, and you're not seeing it where it's supposed to be?
So what you're saying is
But
if I
then-
look out my window and I can look at my car, but I go, well, there should be a hill in the way, right? There isn't. It's over there somewhere behind it, but there should be one in the way. I just can't see it. And not only that, what you're suggesting, Chocolate, is I should furthermore add I wouldn't expect to see the hill that's getting in the way of my car that I can't see but should be there, but I wouldn't expect to see, right?
But that would
Yeah,
only,
that works.
but that only works if something else is obstructing it, like say a mist, a lot of mist. That would always have to be there.
I think they're using the same calculations of how gas lamps work in Narnia when it comes to this.
Not argue all day about the physics of the gas lamps in Narnia. While we might have the maths and claim it works, it's in a fake place that isn't real. Like the sky vacuum, outer space. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Talking about gas lamps, how far would you see a gas lamp in a mist?
Why? Who cares? What's the
Well, if you
relevance?
won't see the hill, then you'll still see any lights, maybe. Gas lamps in a mist. I don't know.
What about if the gas lamp's behind the hill?
Well, you might still see the light halo reflecting off the mist partially behind the hill.
That's fascinating.
But then you can still call the hill that's not there a hill, right? That's cool, right?
It's not there.
Well, you
no.
would be able to deduce it's there because the light is being obstructed by something.
Fog. You've already told us that.
What question are we on?
Anyway, meanwhile, we no longer have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon. We only have one horizon, and the horizon formerly known as Earth curve has been debunked by the Black Swan.
Thank you, Black Swan.
I think Arwen's alluding to refraction.
No, I'm not.
He's talking about
I
lights
was
behind hills.
referring to mist obstructing things.
Yeah.
That's the best I can do.
Yeah, you told us that, but at the end you then asked us why it would be being obstructed, and I explained that you'd already told us it was mist getting in the way, and I didn't see the relevance. Anyway,
Right.
gas pressure without a
Maybe it
container?
was-
Anybody?
Maybe
Sky-
maybe Arwen's just lost in the fog about this answer you gave him.
Beautiful. Gas pressure without a container. Any evidence that we can have a sky vacuum? It's claimed to be one called outer space. Pretty serious stuff. A fairly full Discord server.
Sorry, would you not need
Impossible.
a container according to physics to have the pressure in the first instance?
That's our assertion. Yeah, we must have a containment of some description for us to enjoy the gas pressure we all breathe. It's a necessary antecedent consequent relationship. You can't have gas pressure without a container. However, it is asserted that the sky is a vacuum.
This
I
gets to
said-
my next point. What is pressure, Nathan?
It's pressing on stuff. In this example.
So by definition, it's
Broke up. Go again. By definition, it's... Oh, we've lost Foxwood. The key
He was
moment.
spraying in the background too.
He's doing his...
I was talking to a guy yesterday at the golf course, and it came on the subject right here about 14.7 psi, the gas we breathe. And I said, hey, do you think if you have any amount of gas pressure next to an almost perfect vacuum, that it would separate without a membrane, or do you think the gas would fill the available vacuum of that volume of that space? And immediately he got it. He says, well, it would just equalize. And I said, so how come we have air here?
I like to do the same thing, but not ask that question. Just glance up at the sky.
Well, this wasn't the first time me talking to him about it. So I'm dribbling on top of everything else before.
Just one
But
last try from the guys
he
in
got it.
Discord. Hold on. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without containment? Any evidence that the sky could possibly be a vacuum as it is asserted to be?
Impossible.
Well, if you use two
Impossible.
containers, then they would cancel each other out. You would have net 4 container, and then you have no container. There you go.
So what you're saying is, if I ask for a demonstration of gas pressure without a container, it might be the case that we get presented with 2 containers.
Maybe. That's a strong possibility.
We move on. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
So my 2 containers get no love here. Okay, I see that.
I'll
No.
come back to your 2 containers, chocolate, later. But right now,
It's okay.
right now, what's the last question? Axial rotation?
Yes.
Yeah, well, then if there was, we would have Earth-based Coriolis. Since we don't observe Earth-based Coriolis, so I would say the answer is no, the Earth is not spinning underneath objects that are unattached to it.
Right. So no observable deviation from a non-inertial spinning reference frame claimed to be Earth. Therefore,
Correct.
no spinning Earth.
Correct, because if the Earth was spinning, you could just launch a drone, make it hover right where it's at, and wait for geography to come under it because the Earth is spinning, but that never happens.
Indeed. Any scientific evidence of the not force that you can think of as a force called gravity?
No, Einstein threw it under the bus, said it doesn't work. It's not a good explanation of the phenomena. So he came up with something even worse, a different kind of math that doesn't exist, that includes time concept.
That 10th man on fire today, moving us swiftly along in housekeeping. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Still no answer from the Dr. Becky crowd.
So many people can go and share the love about. Most of the pseudoscience claims we attack here have come from those people in those departments being paid, as that was something we discussed in the pre-show, to perpetuate this nonsense, whether they know it or not. And we're asking from this so-called scientific community, the body of science, for their valid hypotheses. And we just get stony silences. Where are all the people in the comments section saying, here you go, I approached XYZ PhD and he gave me this as a valid hypothesis for proving black holes, or whatever nonsense they've come up with as a just so story for some light they've seen. No valid.
Maybe because it doesn't exist.
Well, they should have loads. They're calling themselves science. Got plenty of
But when
phenomena.
they refer to the body of science, it's just a term they want to use to give some kind of validity to what's about to come out of their mouth next. But you say, okay, let me see the hypothesis from this body of science you just cited. I don't have one.
Yeah, it's bait and switch. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Impossible to measure the distance to an intangible object.
Yeah, agreed. So no, then? The enthusiasm level diminishing rapidly, I see.
No.
No, he answered it right there. Plus, the Earth's radius is not where it's supposed to be because we're not on a sphere because of the black swan, and Venus supposed to be the same size as Earth, and that's how they got the measurement in the first place, or calculation, whatever. So if all that falls apart, no, the answer is no.
Perfect segue. Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius. It's used to claim everything spherical, Earth related.
None whatsoever.
Good to have a chocolate. Last, but by no means least, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth.
Cartoons.
I guess I'm gonna have to step in and be a baller. P waves and S waves.
Okay, what are they and what do they prove?
We shot these vibrations into the center towards the ground, and they reflected back certain peaks and valleys and all this fun stuff, and we can determine that we had this molten iron core down there.
And were
That's how we did it.
were the predictions for these P waves and S waves proven to be 100% accurate then?
Well, there was some anomalies and problems, but we just ignore those. We just ignore those.
So if we ignore the anomalies and problems, and although you haven't mentioned it, presuppose that we're on a spherical surface when we take our P wave and S wave measurements, then ignoring all faults, I can presuppose it, therefore beg the question and affirm the consequent.
Right, exactly. You got it. You figured it out.
I see. If Earth a sphere, then with a molten iron core, then we will observe these return signals with our P waves and S waves. And we do, although we don't, observe these signal returns with our P waves and S waves, although they were wrong. Therefore, Earth has a molten iron core. Affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. If P, then Q, Q, therefore P.
Yeah, but Nathan, this is where they're going to say, but you can imagine it.
Well, I haven't got enough imagination to imagine the molten iron core or imagine that the P waves and S waves are accurate.
Well, because they're not accurate, you have to imagine it because you still have to reify you're on a sphere. So they got to be real, but they're not real through any kind of testing or observation. So the only way to keep that thing going is to imagine it.
So Brian, I don't know if you realise, has obviously hit the mark in terms of his description and dissection of the globiolus effect, to the point where somebody, presumably slightly offended by that, has gone and defined it, presumably in the Urban Dictionary or something similar, as a flat earther not being able to cope with reality. Thinking, right, that's very interesting to see. So kudos to Brian. It seems you're getting a bit of flack, my friend. You know why you get flack, don't you? It's because you're over the target. So another bit of belated kudos to Brian. Brian's Logic. Subscribe today.
Brian's on fire, baby.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I'll third that. Brian is absolutely on fire at the moment. He's right on point and knows his stuff and has honed it right down to concise descriptions that he can even battle people with in the real time. So, yeah, Brian, top pick. Go and subscribe to him.
Yeah, he says he calls Rumpus directly and they have it out after 4 hours.
No, what I like what he says is Rumpus is in debate mode. As soon as he says one word, he's already debating. It's like a robot.
Yeah, he could be at 40 words a minute talking about another subject. The minute flat Earth comes up, he's running at 1,000 words.
Is Rumpus a bot?
By, like some people would say on his side, he's like a machine. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's self-evident though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The rumpus machine, the disturbance machine, the row machine.
Well, he's just embracing the fiction in his science, that's all.
What you need if you're on the losing side of an argument. You need lots of distractions and fuss.
Amazing that this side says science doesn't prove things.
What, the same side that used to say the body of science proves everything that they ever get put to them?
Yeah, that same side.
Yeah, it's like 2018, I'm going to say, when that stopped, when we started asking them for science. Got summed up beautifully by Chocolate at the end of one of the shows last week. It's like, yeah, that all ended, didn't it? Why? Well, because we started saying science, you say? Let's see it then. Of course, prior to 2018, we had a limited understanding ourselves of what science was.
Right. But you know what? The ballers, the more I look at them and see the whole globe religion, I really think that they are intellectual nomads, and they seek pools of trust. Trust is like water to them in the desert. And they just keep on migrating the argument until they find a new source of trust, and then they just stay there until somebody dries up again. Somebody tries to unroute them, and then they move on in the argument in the spot. So they just make sure they don't anchor down on anything, don't call something their home in an argument, don't make a claim. Just move on, red herring, straw man, whatever it takes. Go to the next step. Intellectual nomads, is what they are.
Yeah, usually that's as a result of cognitive dissonance. You've taken them to the point in the argument where they've had to lay down their own contradiction or had it laid down by us to them, and at which point they want to, I won't go through your description again, but obfuscate away, go on to the next point, put a question to you, damn quick, you know. But I've said this many times in the last couple of months, right? I think that's a human condition as opposed to a globe condition. I think it's been exploited with the type of programming with the heliocentric model, but I think it's a human condition that's been exploited as opposed to just, this is just how globers are. If you've been indoctrinated with the globe, it's like, nah, I'm sure you could find somebody in some Eastern culture that's never been polluted with it, that you could challenge them on something that they did believe and you'd have the same result.
Oh, are you saying there's somebody more globerish than a glober?
But what you're
stand
saying
off
is,
at who is the biggest intellectual nomadic group? Sounds dangerous.
I'm saying there's a different word for it. We're trying to describe zealotry as being a globe believer, and it's not the same thing. Oh, it is the same thing because they are zealots, but what I'm saying is being a zealot is something that people can fall into generally. It's something that is exploited, and people fall into rhetoric and zealotry very easily. You know, people fall out of it just as easily, which is why I think the conditioning and the reinforcement of the programming when it comes to the globe model is so strong and prevalent and obvious when you realise it's not true. You know, you see it all the time, you can't help it, right? You know, and it puts you off. It leaves a bitter taste in your mouth when you're watching something and they start barking on about how the globe works or whatever they're babbling on about. But anyway, my point is that when you've got this mental mindset and you're fickle, in other words, you know, we're talking about no such thing as bad publicity in the pre-show, and I'm saying that the reason that it's long-term is because people are so fickle, they just forget. Well, if they just forget that they're supposed to have this worldview because it's not re-indoctrinated into them on a continual level, like daily, almost minute by minute, you're constantly bombarded with either language or imagery that's globe-based, that's globe-biased, and that will leave you in that state permanently unless it goes away. Like I say, people are fickle. But the people who have had it pointed out in terms of contradictions reach a different stage of how people behave, and that's zealotry. And that's really what we're talking about, as opposed to behaving like a globed. They're behaving like zealots.
Well,
Right.
referencing Rumpus from last week, when your best comeback at the end because you run out of trying to describe the inconsistency, I can't even say it, falsehood, fallacious points.
Inconsistencies.
Thank you very much. He went to imagination. So his best answer at the end was, okay, look, I can't answer why it doesn't work. I can't answer why it's fallacious. I can't answer why it's illogical. But here, I believe it so much that it's got to be imagination. So he ended on imagination. Now, imagine a flat earther responding to any questions about the nature of this earth that we live on, and then when pressed to a point said, well, you know, I can't prove it, but it's my imagination. Imagine if we said that.
Right, they turn it as an attack and make it into, you lack the imagination, or a comeback. All right, my bad. I'll do better when I try and reify your model we've just demolished for its
They'd
lack of
rip
physical
us a
proof.
new one if we did that.
But instead, they just say you don't understand.
Yeah, it's the usual ad hom. I was going to add that in my last little spiel to add to what you said, Arwin, which is you missed out one little bit, which is when they get to that stage, they've got to ad hom you first.
So wait, when they say you don't understand, what they're saying is you don't understand what I want you to understand.
Well, look at the.
Now, you just lack the ability to imagine it and then reify it into reality. That's
Don't
what that means.
stand under what I am telling you. You don't stand under.
Right.
We're getting all legal language now.
No, I'm being literal. So if you've got somebody who's reifying the physical nature of a sphere from a model that they have as a religious faith, and they describe it to you, you point out where it's wrong, and they tell you that you don't stand under my reification, that makes grammatical sense, and for the audience's benefit, they can understand, in descriptive terms, how a reification not accepted is someone not standing under someone else's way of life, their physical manifestation of a model, whatever you want to describe it as. You won't stand under it, and they'll point it out to you like that's something bad. You don't stand under my reification.
You don't understand what I want you to understand.
Well, it's a little too late for that because of the black swan, where we start with their big in the question of the Earth being a sphere of a radius of 3959, and every horizon distance could be no further than 1.22 miles times the square root of the observer's height in feet. At a 1 foot observer height, it can't be more than that. And yet, here's all the evidence that it's way beyond that, proving that we're not on the sphere. So we do understand. It's you guys that don't understand.
No, we
Some people
comprehend.
don't believe in a black swan. They say it's an anomaly.
We comprehend their reification, and we verbalise the contradictions within their reification. They then tell us that we won't stand under it. That's how it's actually taking place. The fact that we can not only comprehend how their model works and verbalise how the contradictions lay out, they will then, at that stage, which has already been detailed by Arwin, stand in cognitive dissonance and want to move on to somewhere less painful. That's all it boils down to, because cognitive dissonance is painful. Having a contradiction within a reification that you actually think is your world isn't going to gel. The cogs don't work. They don't move together. So you want to go away from that pain, mental pain, which is what it is. That's what we're dealing with people in mental pain.
Right, when the words and the ideas stop rolling, the machine crashes, and that's when the pain reveals itself. So they have to keep on moving quickly, get the cogs out, put some other wheel in there to just keep it rolling, move on to the next thing. Forget about the old thing, it doesn't fit anymore.
Well, not forget about the old thing. Tell you, normally with an appeal to some authority they don't yet have. So they'll say, well, it's not that I don't understand. I don't need to understand it. Somebody out there that's far more intelligent than I does understand it and explains it to others. And because there's people out there more intelligent than I explaining it to others, it must be true. We had a dude the other day that came in, and we had him absolutely
gravity,
over.
Right?
Yeah, the guy who's talking about gravity, and when it got down to brass tacks, he tells us he doesn't understand and doesn't think he needs to. It's like, well, why are you coming here arguing it and reifying it and telling us it's real when you don't understand it and think you don't need to understand it? But you're going to tell me it's real? What outrage. But that is literally how they'll cognitively process it when it comes to a contradiction about it. Or it's pseudo. Well, you call it pseudo. No, Einstein called it pseudo. But you have misinterpreted what it is because you don't understand it, haven't looked into it, have never read it in your life, and have just decided, because others have told you, that it's real. And often that comes with many disclaimers that you've decided to ignore. And when a flat earther points that out to you, especially when people hold us in such high disdain, that's also really painful, which is why we get the vitriol. Because, well, these people are just silly. Here's a contradiction in your model that makes it not real. You don't understand. No, I do, and I've just explained it to you. You're an idiot. Well, that's their cognitive pain being projected out onto us because we've explained how it doesn't work, and they don't understand. It is merely projection. Hey, Adam.
Correct.
Afternoon, guys.
Hello.
I've been sharing various videos with Adam and a few others, and we had a couple of discussions on Skype, which is about the psychology of these people. And as a general rule, QE is always of the attitude, look, I'm not Mystic Meg, and this stuff is pseudoscience when you're analysing people's thoughts and feelings about stuff and how they behave. It is ultimately just quackery. However, I still find it quite fascinating and would like to discuss it. So off camera, we have discussed this and chose amongst ourselves not to share it with an audience because it could be interpreted so many different ways. But it is an interesting subject to sort of look into the motivation behind them. And when detailing things like cognitive dissonance, which is a quackery term if you want to look at it in those ways, is still so easy to describe when you have somebody that will uphold two contradicting positions at the same time. That is in essence what contradictions give them, and the pain that is described by us with the words cognitive dissonance, is to me a very accurate description.
It's still accurate, Nathan. It's just not science. It's behavioural studies. It doesn't mean that. But fundamentally, it's probability based. It's likely they're suffering this, but there's no way we can prove it directly in a scientific way. But yeah, you ran off last week. You ended the shows, and when you'd sent it, I was sat there watching that cog dis one and just rapping ballers. It was just like having baller arguments described to you, in terms of how they deal with it, how they hide from it.
Well, that was the thing. Yeah. On the demonstrations I'm sending you, some of them are these are psychiatrists and patients, but in many instances, the more recent ones are acted. They're performed by actors who've been trained how the traits are supposed to be, perhaps even scripted. I don't know. But some of the older ones from much, much earlier, I do actually think are real. They're telling the patient, this is just being done for research purposes. Little do they know that whatever, 60, 70 years later, it's going to be on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of them are long dead. But, the point is that you're listening to these character traits being described and then watching them actually manifest themselves in some patients, or in some instances actors that are describing patient symptoms. And you go, wow, I see this all day. This is amazing. This is really accurate. And
that was
the one that I got to.
The delusional one, wasn't it? It was the repetition of the same thing, even though you've got no evidence and you fight the evidence of all the cog dis, but it was the one that was describing actually fully what is delusional. Actually,
yeah,
what
I was getting there. You took my thunder. That was the one that made me call the off-camera discussion when I got to delusion, because I'm like, is it schizophrenia? Is it a mild form of schizophrenia? It doesn't quite match. I don't really. And then you get into the traits of it, and then you get down to delusion, and you go, yeah, I hear this all the time. We say it, we use it, we know the word in sort of common vernacular usage. But what does it really mean? How's it described in psychological terms? And you get down to it. My God, that's what people actually are coping with when they come here. They're coping with a delusion, right? And a lot of it, when they're describing it in terms of how people will mentally experience this, they say it goes along sometimes, not always, hand in hand with hallucinations. And you go, well, obviously, if you're trying to induce this into people, the general populace, with a delusion about, I don't know, sky vacuums for the sake of argument, to keep it simple, as we've talked about that today, well, then you need to have the hallucinatory bit as an aspect, right? So you go, well, what bit is that? And then suddenly, obviously, light bulb over the head, you go, well, everyone's got a TV. And they're being shown stuff from the sky vacuum, both with a suspension of disbelief, i.e. in fiction, and in claim to be non-fiction. Well, that's basically a hallucination, because that's not real. You know what I mean? So it's like, basically what we've got is a population that's having induced psychosis, and they've got mass delusions about where they live. Now, no one's going to argue with those bits. I've thought long and hard about the bits that will and will not get criticism in the comments section, or from moany people who might join after this conversation. But after long and hard thought about it, there are certain aspects that you can just say, because thinking about it, we say it all the time, including Quantum Eraser. Think back to the amount of times he has said, quite exasperated as he does so, you're delusional. And they are, right? Globeheads, that is.
It's totally, like I say, I was listening through it and you're going, my God, this is what I'm encountering. This is actually what I'm dealing with. And to have it put in such eloquent, and he's very succinct and eloquent and comprehensible as well, because he is talking psychology, but he puts it into terms that you understand that behavior, how it's being classified, and you look at it and you're going, my God, we are actually dealing with delusional people here on a daily basis. It's
right, and that delusion leads to a state, mild or otherwise, of psychoses. And at that stage, you're obedient, you're pliable, you're all the things that someone who wants to control you needs. And you look at it and you go, okay, well, that's the end step. So if I was to look at this and go, that would be quite useful, you'd back engineer those steps and end up at, the delusional and the hallucinatory stages and go, well, how can I induce that? And then you end up with it on TV and the massive population over maybe a course of 100 or 150 years literally thinking that they're on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum. It's just absolutely nuts when you think about it. I'm smiling, you can probably hear it in my voice, because in some small way, as mad as this sounds, you kind of got to tip your cap to that. You've got kind of go, wow, that's pretty impressive stuff, right? The web that we unweave is often impressive when you see how it's been woven.
If you look at, I was about to say, it shows you how susceptible we are while we're teetering, hence why maybe people go out and all have things shoved in their arms in the belief that it'll get rid of something that never hurt them in the first place. It shows how susceptible we are to their influence. And what the scary thing is the number, the majesty of the web they've weaved to have that control over us. You do have to say,
People are lining up for that.
Yeah. But it's stuff that takes hundreds of years, and you can see how complex the web is that has us denying our reality, just like making ourselves delusional, denying our own senses because that telly box says it's a ball. So and it's spinning. So I'll deny my God-given senses, and that's how delusion. Even we are,
Indeed.
And all they had to do was take effects that we see in reality and just put a cool story to them. Apply a cool story, right? Cool words like gravity and, geometric horizon, because we see ships disappearing into the distance. Yeah. Just apply a cool story to it. Give it a little math, maybe a little diagram, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. We all live on a spinning ball. Great.
There you go.
Yeah, but there's a lot more to it than that, though, isn't there? That's part of. That's one arm.
Rinse and repeat again and again and again.
Yeah, but what you've just described specifically is just one arm of a web that's got hundreds of different arms all linked together. The problem with the web is it's got so big that it's become really fragile. I'll always go back to this analogy by Wakey Wakey, Mark Knight, and he described it as a papier-mâché ball. When you're a kid and you used to lay on the glue and paper and newspaper and make a shape with it, and it would harden. And when you look at a papier-mâché globe, to the trained or untrained eye, it looks pretty solid until you go up to it and poke it, and then you see a hole. Now, in the case of maybe 2014, 2015 onwards, what you found when you poked that hole was there was someone standing on the other side of it looking through. And you're like, oh, hello. We can see straight through this ball. That's nuts. Hello. And someone on the other side would go, hello. Did you know that this, that, and the other doesn't work? Check it out over here. Look. And you poke another hole. And that's how it is. It's just flimsy. Hey, Sleepy Mario.
Hey. Have I missed housekeeping?
What?
Yes.
20 to 3 in the UK. Yeah. Any scientific evidence
has made a claim about gravity being a force. He's
missed my cue.
Recreated the Cavendish
He's a
experiment.
retard.
They check out, if you could hear me through what I said over Anthony, I tried to get in a queue for him earlier and was like, any scientific evidence of gravity, but he started before I could give him the the lineup. Go on, Sleepy Mario. I rumpused you to get a gag in because I knew what you were going to talk about.
Yeah, Tony doesn't need to do housekeeping. He doesn't need to be asked to do housekeeping. He just comes rolling in and starts cleaning.
I know, but I'm too excited. I've got to share this with you. Hillbilly Blue Balls. He's recreated the Cavendish experiment. That's not an experiment, measuring a force. It's not a force anymore. And obviously, he loves Cavendish because he spent a lot of time. And to be fair, his build is really cool. I mean, he's got the kind of man cave that most people would die for. Loads of machinery in there. His garage is bigger than my bloody house. But anyway, this is what he said about his Cavendish experiment repetition. He says, where we go. He says, okay, so now for a quick Cavendish update. We, of course, have already seen undeniable proof of mass attracting mass. It works 100% of the time, and that qualitative result, I wonder where he got that phrase from, is beyond question. But of course, the object of all of this isn't simply to show that mass attracts mass. That is a given. So he's claiming to debunk Einstein. The object is to accurately measure the universal gravitational constants using a close replica of the equipment originally used by Cavendish. And then he starts to describe it all. So from Hillbilly Blue Ball's perspective, he thinks that his mass attracting mass is a given and it works 100% of the time. I guess he hasn't realized that it was debunked in World War I. Shout out to Einstein and his theory of general relativity.
Can I lay down a challenge for him?
Creepy levels of delusion here.
Hold on.
Really creepy.
Before we get to the personal attack. So he says, quote, it works 100% of the time.
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to see a calculation for that mass attracting mass using Einstein's field equations. 100% of the
And
time
I'd like to
means
see.
it'll
I'd like
work.
to see the independent variable being manipulated, you know, like I did, to prove the cause of the effect of the accelerating egg. I'd like to see the thing that he manipulated, because otherwise he's just calculating with correlation. That's all it is.
Oh, I've got
You're
that
never
written
going to
down.
see it.
I've got that screenshotted. You can talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'll go and grab my iPad, and he was in my chat discussing it, and I asked him what his independent and dependent variable are. Do you want me to clarify them for you?
Yeah, go on.
Give me a minute.
He's going to say, I just watched it. Can you imagine if I just watched? Yeah, Meekin, are you there, Meekin?
I'm back now. I just missed all that. Bloody shop rang.
Oh,
Sorry.
I think Nathan's back.
What?
Yeah, while Nathan's not. Adam,
Okay,
do you
do you wanna
agree
hear
with
it?
me that when the egg is sat in that neutral position where it's neither one nor the other, it's in the middle? Do you agree that that's undergoing the effects of Brownian motion, right?
Brownian motion is oh god, man, that's a step back in the past. Brownian motion is particulate action used as an analogy to gas behaviour,
Yep.
as I remember from back in my school days. But it's just tiny little smoke particles colliding, but it's analogous to gas behaviour.
Yeah, that's what but it also applies to, because gases and liquids are considered to be fluids. It applies to fluids as well, because then fluids are never technically stationary; they're always technically moving. Do you agree?
Yeah. They're free to flow over each other. They move over each other.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If the egg is undergoing Brownian motion because of the contact or the collisions between the pressured particles that are flowing in the liquid, then that is omnidirectional by definition. What omnidirectional force will be applied against the egg? And they're all going to say buoyancy, but that's directional, so it can't be buoyancy, and that's based on gravity, which is not a force, even though they think of it as a force. So it can't be that, but the egg's undergoing Brownian motion. What is that force that's causing the Brownian motion? And the answer is pressure. But they can't tell us that because they don't want it to be pressure. Because as I add more mass, that increases the density, which creates more pressure below the egg because salt's more dense than the egg. And that is where the upthrust comes from, that they miscalculate and misappropriate from buoyancy. But we know it's caused by pressure. So they can't admit that Brownian motion acting on the egg, the omnidirectional nature of Brownian motion, is caused by pressure, because when I add more mass, that increases the pressure below. They can't admit it.
Can I ask you a question, Anthony?
Sure.
Can you have fluid pressure without a container?
No, it'd fall all over the place, wouldn't it? It'd seek its lowest immediate volume or place based on its environment. So it would be silly. Couldn't do my egg test without the glass. That'd be ridiculous.
You
Okay, so
can't
I've got it.
really technically have any kind of pressure, so to speak, without, or some kind of liquid or fluid pressure without a container.
No, it's like having the upside down glass on the underside of the shelf and filling it with helium, because obviously helium's more dense than the medium. It's less dense than the medium it's in, so it'll want to rise. To stop it from filling that void above you, which it's wanting to go into, it is going to need a container of some kind. To think that you could keep that gas in this area without containment is just ridiculous.
Okay,
Just
hold
wanted-
on. I've
just wanted
tried
to
3
clarify.
times. Hold on, please. So I've got it up on screen now. So I'll just give you his claimed IV and DV. Which one do you want first, DV or IV?
DV, please. What was his DV?
His dependent variable is measured force of attraction.
Measured force of attraction. Oh, right, okay. So wouldn't that be his hypothesis, though? He claims that there is a measured force of attraction.
He's giving that as his dependent variable. His begging the question fallacy that he's trying to prove with the experiment is actually his claimed dependent variable.
Okay, so now I want to know, how did he prove it by manipulating said presumed cause?
Do you want to know what his presumed cause is? His independent variable is distance between two masses. So according to him, if distance between two masses, then measured force of attraction.
So we're back to the correlative calculations fallacy, isn't it? So basically, Einstein and Newton both calculated correlative effects. I also calculated a correlative effect. That makes 3 calculative correlative effects that are relative to things called acceleration on Earth. The only difference is Newton and Einstein both stopped and fell short with a demonstration or experiment, whereas I continued on and I demonstrated by manipulating my presumed cause that an acceleration would occur. Newton and Einstein stopped at them calculations. Oops.
So just do a quick shout out to who's this guy? Arwin, ARWIJN. This is taken from the Flat Earth Early Bird show number 780, and I spent pretty much the entire show for Arwin debating back and forth with Blue Marble Science in his side chat, which also gets shown on screen. So if you want to check out the discussion between Blue Marble Science and myself, it's in text format, running alongside both the on-screen show and the side chat for Flat Earth Early Bird 780 on the Arwin, that's ARWIJN YouTube channel. Be here or be sphere.
Indeed. Yeah, that was
I
a
would
lot of
argue that.
Oh, I've just
So what does he-
accidentally.
so what
Oh no!
does he say
I have
with
a-
the
I have a
voice
question.
then?
Just
Why,
for the
why
audience.
is Hillbilly Blue Balls the redneck retard? Why is he trying to prove the 106-year-old old and busted force that's not a force that supposedly called gravity?
Because that's
Why
a
is he-
given.
Why is he doing that?
Yeah,
Even his own side says it's not a force. I don't even understand.
Yeah, I put that
because
to him.
space-time
Is he
bend
trying to debunk his own side? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I put that
must
to
be
him.
trying to debunk
Chocolate.
Einstein.
Yeah, I've
But
put that to him.
Einstein just doesn't
God.
do it for them, you know, because it doesn't tie into anything. Now, if they just reify the whole idea of mass attracting to mass, then they can sort of reify and tie it into physical reality again. They have gravity withdrawal syndrome, literally. Like, they can't tie their gravity into physical reality anymore, thanks to Einstein. So they're just going back. We're doing it anyway. Mass attracted to mass. I know it's not admitted, it's not official, but we're doing it anyway. That's it.
Okay, that sucks for them, I guess. Good luck with that.
It's a fantastical quest to find gravity. To
It's
find
actually kind of sad.
Well, it's funny. If Newton actually said that there has to be some kind of physical mediation of this force, and he says the way it's described, it can't. Basically, there's nothing physical there, right? But now the ballers are saying that space is physical. Heard them on Discord
Would you like
last week, or maybe the week before that, saying space is physical.
Would you like a Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard, aka Blue Marble Science quote?
Yeah.
So this is taken from the top 50 dumb F-wittery ever uttered by globetard spinning space monkeys. This list was compiled by Quantum Eraser from the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, Be Here or Be Sphere. So this is number 36 on the top 50. Quote, "Listen to me. That's how it overcomes gravity. It doesn't overcome gravity." End quote. Blue Marble Science.
What?
There you have it.
I think we've got to get. I think we need to start using this key phrase. I'm going to coin it more often because it works. Calculative correlations are not science. They might be predictions, but they're not science. We want to see demonstration. So calculating correlations is what Newton and Einstein both did. They calculated the effect that they perceive, and they both had different reasons for why they calculated it how they did. And you could argue that they're both about right, which if one of them's wrong, then it's not right, is it? But let's just go with that. I've also done it too, and that makes 3 of us. And if we're all calculating correlation, then how do you know which one's right? Oh yeah, we test it.
Hold on. How did Einstein calculate anything he perceived? The whole point is that it's outside of perception. It's another medium.
I can't lie. I had the same question.
Couldn't
What the hell
perceive.
did
That was
Einstein
the
perceive?
whole crux of the problem here for the ballers. That
What's
is.
your problem? Haven't you got a good enough imagination?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, what's wrong with you
Imagine-
guys? Imagine. John Lennon said it. Imagine.
Well, that's why it only works in the math.
Yeah, this is a
There's
reification
that
fallacy.
works word again.
This is a reification fallacy. So, like we discussed right at the beginning of this little segment, I would prefer that it just gets pointed out as a pseudo non-place that we're describing with maths, abstract language. That's it. It's Narnia. Domino's Pizza, can I take your order? Well, thank you for that, whoever that was.
That was Tony. Who else?
Of course.
Mike Discipline.
So that's a minibus to Warrington.
Pick. So is that it? That's your scientific evidence that you muscled in to get us, Anthony. I was going to call you Sleeping Warrior, but being told off.
So can we get a summary of what Hillbilly Blue Balls attempted to do?
Yeah, I need that repeated because I just know it was a brutal self-contradicting statement. It's kind of gotten a little blurry. I'm so confused by it. The level of doublespeak they're now applying. So what exactly did he say again?
He's vanished. He's had a phone call and run off. So obviously, I know that from this position, when something takes my attention away, that is when everyone will ask me a question. So I've encouraged it just for humorous effect. Now everyone's asking Tony questions when he's clearly on the phone.
That was a gay ring, too. He's got to do something about that ring.
Or the Nokia ring. Oh no, it's a classic.
That was pretty cool, I thought. That was old school. Hello? I'm on the tube.
Nathan,
Yes.
Nathan, do you genuinely not understand the independent variables in the Cavendish experiment?
Yeah, we're
Despite the fact
going
that
there.
they are so incredibly
Again.
simple?
No, we don't understand what you want us to understand. We don't stand
Well,
under
okay, I know
nothing
you're
you say.
stupid, but I mean, even but the variables in the Cavendish experiment are so simple. The fact that you claim you don't agree with them, either means you're so stupid you don't
What was
understand
the
some very
naturally
simple
observed
things, or you're trying to deceive your
Guys,
audience.
just what is the
let him get his
hypothesis? How about that?
preemptive ad homs in. So you have had the independent variable detailed when you were put to task by QE, and he wrote down what you claimed was the independent variable, and you gave it as mass.
Yeah, well, you can change. You can decide.
All right, just a yes will do, because now I'll point out that independent means on its own. That would be the independent variable. Well, according to Hillbilly Blue Balls, his independent variable is distance. Not mass, but distance.
You can choose one of three.
Can you? Is that what independent means? Oh, wow, I've got a totally different understanding of what independent means.
I know, because you're stupid.
Oh, really? Does independent mean a choice of three?
Yes.
No, it doesn't, you absolute moron.
Listen.
No, I won't listen. I'll tell you that you're a thicko. If you think independent, that means on its own, alone, means a choice of three.
Causes. There are three causes.
Then they're not independent.
Newton, there are three independent.
Three independent, what, like three Lone Rangers?
There are three.
Three Lone Rangers, right?
There are three
Lone Rangers and three independent variables. Let's get something absolutely clear. Rumpus tells us that the independent variable in Cavendish is mass. Hillbilly Blue Balls, on the other hand, tells us that it's distance. Well, they're two different things. Not independent in the slightest.
Independent variables in Newton's universe.
Variables? What do you mean variables? If it's independent, it's on its own, you absolute clown.
In an experiment, you fix two of them to make them controlled variables, leaving you with one remaining independent variable.
And that would be your presumed cause. Well, that then is singular, on its own, alone, your presumed cause of the effect. Well, if the effect is being caused by a singular independent variable, then it's not something else. And you and Hillbilly Blue Balls have got totally different independent variables, making a mockery of your claimed science.
Choose to fix two of the masses, and that leaves you with one independent variable in the experiment, because you've got the two other ones become controlled variables. And so he changed the distance, but
Well, they're different things. So you've got mass and distance. Well, they're two things. That's not independent. You're just thick. You don't understand what independent
You
means.
don't understand.
Oh, I don't understand. No, I do understand. Independent means on its own. So you telling me you've got two different independent variables for this non-phenomena that's being created of torsion bar twist definitely isn't science, definitely isn't a natural phenomena, and even on your own side you've got multiple independent variables. Well, that's a contradiction in terms. You're just a thicko.
Frightened,
Either
but I'm going
it's
to
one
expose the fact you
independent
don't
variable
understand
or
about
you have
independent
a
variables, independent
variable
variables.
conspiracy,
So
right?
in Newton's law, there are three independent variables, and
Well, then they're not independent. That's a contradiction in terms, you thicko.
they are completely
Correlation as well.
independent.
Oh, really? Well, if it's an independent variable, it is the presumed cause of the effect. And the effect in this case is torsion bar twist.
There are three causes of...
What, of torsion bar twist?
Yes, three causes.
Oh, who gives a crap? Torsion bar twist isn't a natural phenomena.
Of course it is.
You think we see torsion bar twist in nature, you abject moron?
It's unnatural. Of course you get twisting things in nature. In
Oh, we get torsion bar twist in nature, do we?
the physical world.
Oh, so what you're saying is this experiment figures out the cause of torsion bar twist then?
Correct.
So nothing to do with gravity then, we're figuring out why things twist.
It's
By
a
torsion
measuring
bar
device for the
twisted-
force of gravity.
Sorry, you just said it was figuring out why things twist. So not only have we not got a naturally observed phenomena, you're going to tell me that the natural phenomena you've detailed, which is why things twist, isn't now the phenomena, it's actually gravity.
That was gibberish.
Oh, really? Well, you can get lost. No, I understand that a naturally occurring phenomena would be a dependent variable. I asked you what they were studying and you said torsion bar twist. You confirmed, yes, torsion bar twist. Then I said, okay, so the thing we're studying, the phenomena in nature, is torsion bar twist then, not gravity.
Yes, it is. It's used.
Yes, it is. Well, you've just told us it's torsion bar twist. So that's not gravity, they're different things.
Which measures the force of gravity. And this experiment...
Oh, which makes up the force of gravity. So our natural phenomena's not gravity then, you're extrapolating that out from your dependent variable that you're figuring the cause of. So you're going to figure the cause of torsion bar twist with three independent lone rangers, independent variables according to you because it's nonsense. And then you're going to tell me that if your three independent variables, then torsion bar twist, but that means gravity.
measures the force.
Measure the force of twisting.
Force measuring device.
Of twisting.
Gravity in
Oh, gravity now, so it's not torsion bar twist.
the torsion bar twist.
It's the thing that you're studying and it's not a natural phenomena. That's right. Yeah, you can talk about the natural phenomena of torsion bar twist all day long and it's not gravity. It's torsion bar twist.
Gravity in the experiment.
Yeah, gravity's not in the experiment. DV torsion bar twist. Of course, again, hillbilly blue balls. Now that we've just had clarity, is everyone clear that we've got the DV as torsion bar twist? Are we all clear about that?
Which measures force.
We've got torsion bar twist as DV. We're all clear.
Which measures force.
Which measures force of twisting. Okay, so we've got twisting torsion bar force as the DV. Not according to hillbilly blue balls. He gave a totally different DV. Measured force of attraction.
Which is measured by the torsion.
Sorry, attraction? Is attraction twisting?
It's a measurement of the...
Is it twisting?
It's a measurement of the...
Of twisting?
Attracted between the masses.
Attraction between
It is an
masses is
instru-
twisting torsion bars, is it?
It causes a force.
Oh, it causes. Sorry, I thought we were studying the cause. That would be independent variable. This is the effect, you thicko.
Yeah, which is
So
measured...
you don't know the difference between the cause and the effect. You're a retard. You're useless to us. You don't even know what you're babbling about. You're babbling gibberish.
I can't believe that even though...
You're babbling gibberish, man. You don't even know the difference between the cause and effect in your pseudoscience. Your effect has been detailed. We've clarified it. It's torsion bar twist. It's just not what Hillbilly said.
That the torsion bar twist...
Yeah, your DV torsion bar twist. Not according to Hillbilly. Yeah, according to him, it's attraction between masses.
Nathan, you need a device to measure the gravitational force and...
What, that you're assuming? See, in an experiment, we try and figure the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena. That's a DV.
You've got to measure it, haven't you? You've got to measure the dependent variable. And
Yeah, and that's torsion bar twist in this example, isn't it?
it's the way you measure the force, yeah.
So the way we measure the force isn't torsion bar twisting, and it's definitely not attraction between masses, which is what Hillbilly said. So this all seems like gibberish nonsense.
To you, you just...
To me, we've got independent Lone Rangers.
Let's try again. The
Try again, Lone Rangers is nonsense. Independent variables is nonsense. Having your compadre, Hillbilly Blue Balls, detail a totally different DV to you makes this experiment nonsense.
The torsion bar twist measure.
Is your DV, and it's not what Hillbilly Blue Balls said, and it's not gravity.
You've got three things on the independent variable side you can vary, and he chose.
Yeah, that makes them non-independent. That's a contradiction in terms. You're just thick.
No, you don't understand.
I don't understand.
You don't understand something.
Yeah, I do understand. You've got three variables, and they're supposed to be independent.
Nathan, do you know what a controlled variable is in an experiment?
It's not a three-way variable, because that wouldn't be independent.
Right, so you're dodging the question. You don't know, do you?
What, something that's held constant? Yeah, I do know what a constant variable or control variable is. It's just not what we're discussing with your multiple independent. That seems strange, how you can have things that are independent and multiple all at the same time. But there we go, that's what you've got. You've also got a DV that doesn't match with Hillbilly Blue Ball's DV.
Of the independent variables into controlled variables.
Variables? How can you be variables and independent?
If you have controlled variables in an experiment, Nathan.
Well, they're not the cause. The controls aren't the cause. Don't you understand that?
They are.
Oh, the controls,
No,
the things that are kept constant to not influence the test, are also simultaneously causes. Are you thick?
Nathan, without those controlled variables.
Causes. Bro, did you really just say the controls
Yes,
of the
he did.
cause?
Make sure you take that.
Rumpus, you're
The
crazy,
other
bro.
independent variable wouldn't.
Sorry,
do
we want to get the
anything.
quote nice and clear, Rumpus.
You've got to have the control.
Sorry, did you just say the control variables are the cause?
They're just held constant. That's
So they're not causes then?
the thing. They're still causes, but they're
Oh, they're still causes even though they're being held constant to not affect the test. But they're still the cause.
held constant.
So not causes then?
Controlled variable is, do you?
Yeah, it's something held constant to not affect the test. The test being your independent variable on its own, alone, singular, not multiple.
They're held constant, but they're still a cause.
So if they're the cause but they're held constant, how do you know that they're the cause?
Law of gravitation, and you.
So now you're talking about a law. What are you talking about laws for? We're talking about science here, not law. Why are you talking about law?
And so Billy Blue was said he'd only change one of them, which would be the distance, and hold the other two masses constant.
Oh, no. That's his dependent variable, you abject clown. This is where I berated you previously. No, that's his effect.
No, the effect.
No, what do you mean, no? Yeah, that's right, he's wrong. No, it's not an effect now.
What's not an effect?
The attraction between masses?
That's an effect, yes.
Oh, so not torsion bar twist then?
Which you measure the force with the torsion bar.
So you're assuming it when you measure torsion bar twist then. So we're not measuring the dependent variable of a force between things. We're measuring a torsion bar twisting and then saying it's because, well, that would be a causal relationship. That's what you're supposed to be establishing.
If you knew anything about torsion bars, you'd know that they measure force.
I see. And torsion bars are gravity.
Is the force of gravity.
Oh, so they're just gravity. So a bar twisting is now gravity.
In this experiment, it measures the force of gravity.
And your dependent variable is the force of gravity.
Which you measure with the torsion bar twist.
So a torsion bar twisting is actually gravity then?
No, it's measuring the force of gravity.
You just said it was.
No, I didn't. Listen again. The torsion bar twist is a force measuring device. You need to measure the dependent variable, and you do it with a torsion bar. Just like you measure voltage with a voltmeter, you're measuring the force of gravity with a torsion bar.
Okay, and where do we observe it in nature, and what is it?
We observe it in the Cavendish thing, because Cavendish...
So we don't observe it in nature, we observe it in the test. No, that's wrong.
You say... Hold on, you're saying the Cavendish experiment's
You're saying it's measuring something, a force in nature. I'm saying, where do we observe it in nature? And you're saying we observe it in the test.
We observe the force of gravity you detected in your bathroom scales.
So it's a force downwards, then?
It just so happens that the major force we experience is downwards, but we know that mass attracts mass. That's what the Cavendish experiment proves.
It's a force downwards, then?
Not necessarily, no.
So you don't even know what the force you're studying is? You're saying it's a measuring device? You don't even know the force you're studying? Maybe not. So maybe we haven't got an observed phenomena, or maybe we have got one concrete that we know we're going to study the cause of. Which is it?
Torsion bar device.
Yeah, we don't want to know about the torsion bar. You're saying it's a measuring device or a force in nature. What force?
Well, let's just decide what we're talking about here.
Yeah, what force are you talking about? You've said if you step on a scale. I've then clarified that that would be a downward force, and you seem hesitant. Maybe not, you say.
The torsion bar device in the Cavendish experiment is orientated horizontally to avoid the force of gravity due to the Earth being involved in the experiment.
I see. So it's negating a downward force.
By working horizontally, it's a different dimension. Therefore, if you knew about dimensions, you would know that a vertical dimensional force cannot affect a horizontal force. And the balls in the Cavendish experiment orientated horizontally, so the gravitational force of the Earth does not in any way affect what happens.
Okay. And according to hillbilly blue balls, this works 100% of the time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you give me the calculation using Einstein's field equations for this mass attracting mass, please?
Okay, I've got the paper here. Let me get it somewhere. I'll give me a few seconds to get hold of the paper that does the, which will show that the Einstein field equations reduce to the Newtonian equations in the simple circumstance on the surface of the Earth.
No, not the paper. You do it. You do
Well,
it.
that's going to. You're not going to understand.
Do you not understand what's being asked? Do you not understand what's being asked? Because I can repeat it.
Yeah, I am, but you particularly has no understanding of math.
Q? What's Q?
Understand what I'm saying?
Q?
You have no.
Q has no idea.
You have no understanding.
You don't seem to understand what you're being asked. I want you to calculate what has been done by hillbilly blue balls mathematically with Einstein's field equations. That would be one mass attracting another mass.
And we'll go through it, and you will see how the field equations in Einstein's theory of general relativity will end up with a force in our 3D world and give you the Newtonian values, and then we can determine the force from that. So,
sorry, we're going to determine the force from Newtonian values. I'm asking you to do it with Einstein's field equations. We established with you previously on this very show that couldn't be done.
It can be done. Who said that?
You said it had to be reduced down to Newtonian.
Well, that just what happens.
It seemed to be stuttering quite a lot. Yes, that's correct. We've got it on record.
Yeah, and that's what it does.
Yeah, so it can't be done in it can only be done in Newtonian then. It can't be done in Einstein's field equations then.
The Einstein equation.
You seem to be stuttering quite a lot. It's quite clear, and you've already clarified it on a previous show. So you cannot do it with Einstein. It has to be reduced to Newtonian.
I can do it. We can go through the equations. We'll go through it. It'll take you some time because, well, you won't understand. I'll have to explain to you calculus which you don't understand. QE doesn't understand calculus. He doesn't understand basic maths. He can't even work
said
out.
That they can't be solved numerically for two or more
never
masses
done a
before.
proper
We have you on
calculation
tape. Now you're
in his
solving
life.
for two or more masses.
You
Let's
can
see
see
it.
that he can't do the most basic maths, and so you won't.
Just ad humming. Let's just clarify what's happening. Rumpus has already told us specifically that you cannot do it for two masses. You can do them one at a time, or you can reduce it to Newtonian. Now, he's babbling on incessantly, but he's told us already it can't be done in the Einstein field equations.
Yes, it can.
Why did you tell us that hold on. Why did you tell us that it could not be done? It could only be done one at a time.
No, I didn't. I've never said that.
We got you recorded as saying exactly that.
I've never said you only have to do it one at a time. I've never said that.
So you can calculate.
You mixed me up with someone else.
So you can calculate. Now, just for the record, using Einstein's equations, not converting them, using his specific equations, you can calculate for two masses then in Einstein's field equations.
You can work out, Einstein's equations, you can put, it'll tell you the bending space for one thing, and you can then add in the bending space of another mass. So
so you have to do them one at a time then?
Well, you can superpose them, there's no problem. It's like saying...
Sorry, so you have to, as I've already detailed, you slippery little worm, that you'd have to do them one at a time, not one attracting the other then.
If I were to hit you over the head with three...
No, I don't need your example that resorts to violence. No need. What kind of a pathetic man resorts to examples with violence when he's losing? Oh, how pathetic. You're trying to scare me?
So if I had a car crash with...
You'd be dead and we wouldn't be listening to you. It's not really relevant. However...
Ball busters.
And then I'd have the force of the three cars coming together.
Sorry.
Same within anything. So it's exactly the same as classical mechanics. It's no different to that.
So using Einstein's field equations for both of the masses...
Just like...
why are you interrupting me? You scared? You scared?
I thought you'd stop.
You scared?
Okay, carry on.
So
No, you're the
using
scared one. You're the one that
Einstein's
does the
field
overtalking.
equations, you seem scared.
No, I'm not at all. No, I'm more than happy to intimidate you in any way I like. You're the scared one.
You need to intimidate me, do you? Why would you need to intimidate your opponent?
Ethan, You're the one who's frightened to get out in an environment where
So you are trying to intimidate me and inferring that I'm scared. No, not really, Rumpus.
little domain with you and your mute button. So you're the scared one. If you want to come out into the big
So you are. You're scared of my question. You're going to obfuscate it around it by talking about my show and how scared I am. That's interesting. See, I was going to repeat my question about having a calculation using Einstein that calculated for both masses at the same time.
I intimidated you and demolished.
No, it seems he's scared. Doesn't want to listen to the actual question on topic about Einstein and his field equations. Wants to talk about me personally.
Never ever come out onto the big wide world.
See, talking about me personally. I'm talking about the big wide subject of Einstein's maths. Yet he wants to talk about me, one man. What a coward.
Or you realise that
You. I'm talking about Einstein. I've got bigger things to worry about. You and your feeble mind and thinking about personal things. Feeble people, pathetic minds talk about people. Well, I'm talking about the mathematical reification of Einstein. Not Einstein personally, but you want to talk about me personally. What a pathetic little man.
Let's go through it then, Nathan. Let's go through.
I was trying to ask you a question about calculating for two masses using Einstein's field equations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get stuck into Einstein's field equations then.
You said you can't solve it numerically.
You can for some circumstances.
Play that
Such as
beautiful
on the
beam
Earth.
footage.
You didn't sound too confident with that.
Well, it's a very tricky thing. Many of the solutions are not analytical. You have to solve them numerically. That is correct. But the
You can't solve
in
them
simple
numerically.
circumstances.
So you can solve two masses attracting one another numerically with Einstein's field equations, and you can do that then.
Yes.
Dunning-Kruger-Rumpus, June 19th, 2020.
Einstein's field equations cannot solve for more than one mass.
Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation, but they...
So you can't solve this little problem that Brian's presented you with Einstein's field equations then? You cannot do it then? That'd make you a liar. You just said you can.
Well, you can do it in simple circumstances.
So you can do it. Would make you a liar.
You can solve it numerically. You can solve it numerically. Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation. You can solve it numerically. Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation.
In the general case, you can't do it analytically, but in the simple case for the Earth, you can do it numerically, analytically.
Okay,
but
perfect.
The general
Perfect. Thank you for the clarity. You can do it numerically. I'd like you to numerically calculate what Hillbilly Blue Balls has done with his two masses attracting one another. Do it.
Right. Fortunately, in the case of being on the surface of the Earth, they conveniently reduce down to Newton's equations.
Well, that's not doing it with Einstein's. That's doing it with Newton's. So immediately you can't do it with Einstein then.
No, you don't understand.
Oh, I don't understand how you've just told us you can and cannot do it numerically. And then when asked to do it numerically, you've said you'll do it with Newton. So not do it with Einstein then.
You can.
Do it with Einstein then.
That way because
okay, let's clarify my question. Without using Newton's maths and only using Einstein's maths, numerically calculate mass attracting mass.
But Einstein's equations...
Sorry, but Einstein? Is this an excuse for why you can't do it?
No, I can do it. Just listen. If I've got a big equation and I've got lots of terms, let's suppose I've got 10 terms in a long equation, and if 9 of those terms go to 0 in the surface of the Earth, I'm then left with the first term, and that term is Newton's one. So Einstein's equations become Newton's equations.
No, they're not Newton's equations. Einstein was born after him, you complete idiot. They don't become Newton's. What do you think he was, clairvoyant? Could he see into the future? Could Newton divine the thoughts of a man not born yet? What kind of idiot are you?
Are a subset of Einstein's.
Subset? No, mate. They're different. Are you thick? You're telling me how you've got to use something different which isn't Einstein. And we all know why. Because you can't calculate mass attracting mass using Einstein's field equations. And you damn well know it. That's why you're telling us explicitly that you'll have to dilute it down to something that isn't Einstein. That would be Newton.
A simple case. It's very simple.
What, of having to change it from Einstein to Newton?
Terms. If I've got a 10-term complicated equation and on the surface of the Earth they all go to 0 except 1, that's
Do
fine.
it.
And then I just use the one that's
Discord
left.
right now.
It's very
Do
simple.
it. I'll copy and paste it. Do it. Stop talking.
Okay.
Start solving.
Right, okay, let's go. I'll go and get you the, it's a very long proof.
No,
to
don't
show
go
that's
get me
what's happening.
anything. You solved the equations
Right.
for hillbilly blue balls. I don't even know what the photosynthetic redneck done now. Go ahead and solve them in Discord. I'll copy and paste it and send it to Nathan.
Well, you've already seen the paper that does this, but I'll show it to you again.
Not the paper. You do. Oh, really? Did somebody do a paper on hillbilly blue balls experiment?
You don't need to. They do it on the principle, you moron.
Not the principal. He asked you specifically about hillbilly
Yes.
blue balls, redneck retard,
yes.
aka the photosynthetic redneck, about his non-experiment, pseudoscience non-experiment that's
equation.
106 years out of date, pseudoscience.
Equations in science, you don't have to say, oh, this is an
106
equation
year out of
for
date
Huey doing
pseudoscience.
some experiment in his garage. You
Let's
demonstrate
go.
a principle that works everywhere.
Do
so
it.
You don't have to
No
include
talking.
blue's a particular
Blue.
experiment. You have one that works everywhere in science,
Let's go.
everywhere
Do
on
it.
the planet Earth.
And that's
Do
Einstein's. Hold on, and that's Einstein's field equations, right?
Yeah, they work everywhere. Yep.
So
And
they
reduce
work
that to
everywhere.
Newton's equation
Okay, thank
on
you.
the surface of the Earth.
Thank you. We heard. So they will work with this mass attracting mass claim that Hillbilly Blue Balls has devised. Then it'll be able to calculate the one mass attracting the other.
Correct.
Okay,
because
show us.
on the surface of the Earth, those field equations reduce down to Newtonian equations.
Oh, yeah. Do it!
Okay, I've got the paper here. Let me get a second.
Not the paper! You do it!
Well, with that, while that's going on, I'm sure it will. Yeah, right. I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who joined live on Nathan Oakley 1980. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, those of you who are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Look it out. So it's not trivial.
I'm in live stream. I'm waiting.
Okay.
Rumpus, do you have a job? Rumpus, do you have a job?
Who cares?
Why are you always on here, mate?
Who cares?
I think I've only been once on here in twice in 2 weeks.
Who cares?
Why do you? Yeah, what do you do, by the way, moron?
Get to solving these equations.
Hello,
I'm a
gentlemen.
teacher.
This is not a dating site.
Is this paper gone? Bloody hell!
Oh, the paper. You're looking for the paper. You do it.
Yes,
Dog ate the homework.
because moron. You see, we have equations like Ohm's law and the
Yeah,
force
you don't have
force equal to mass times
equations.
acceleration, and we don't need to make them specific to
we
any
need you
particular
to. I
thing.
just want you to
So
post
we don't
Einstein's
need
field
to have a
equation
special.
and then identify
We don't
each
need
variable.
a special
We
equation.
want a rigorous
We don't
definition
need
of
a
each tensor, please.
equation for blue marble science experiment. We've got a general law which we can apply.
No,
It's very simple.
you got a general law.
Yeah.
Natural laws don't exist, according to you.
Of course they do.
That's a quote.
No,
That's a quote.
Natural laws
Hello,
don't
Rumpus.
exist.
Hello.
There's no such
Hello.
thing as natural
Scared
law.
of your own words.
There are laws
Scared
of
of
physics.
his own words. What a coward. That's a quote from you.
What? No, the natural law. You keep on quoting something called natural law, which is something that does not exist in science. We have the laws of nature, yes.
Sorry, you're saying natural laws don't exist, they're laws of nature. So you're saying because you rearrange the sentence slightly that it makes us and our points invalid?
Correct.
So you're saying that if we were to call them natural laws or laws of nature, that somehow changes, for example, the second law of thermodynamics, free expansion into a vacuum, that stops happening, does it?
The second law of thermodynamics, you didn't understand the difference.
The free expansion into a vacuum bit, as demonstrated, is that not true anymore?
Difference. So I think you may, because I kept on telling you didn't know the difference.
So he's scared. I'm putting to him free expansion into a vacuum, and he seems to be ignoring that.
Tell me, okay, let's just go through this. Do you know what the difference is between the second?
Maybe ignore my question about the free expansion into a vacuum. Maybe ignore it completely, you abject coward.
Okay, if you want to, I'll answer your question.
Maybe you'll stutter. Free expansion into a vacuum. Natural law. Described in the second law of thermodynamics. Is that wrong?
I missed the first two words of what
Maybe if you shut up, you coward. I know you don't want it put to you because you're an abject coward and you're scared of everything us flat earthers put to you in this regard. So, natural law, or laws of nature, however you'd prefer. The free expansion into a vacuum. Is that wrong?
I could hear the start of yours. So what's the question?
So what he's done is he's talked through every word of that so he didn't have to listen to it for a third time. As described by the second law of thermodynamics, a law of nature or natural law, whichever you prefer. Is that incorrect? The free expansion into a vacuum.
My sentence.
I'm going to get rid of him.
Here we are. I'm about to end
Who
my
votes to get rid of him?
Then you
Stop listening.
Yours. So here
Coward.
I'm about to end my
what a
sentence.
coward. Total coward. Stop listening completely. Shut down. Mental pain. Total shutdown.
Out.
No, leave him in here. We want those Einstein field equations.
Maybe that's...
Yeah,
so here we go. Ending my sentence now. I'm in the process of ending my sentence. Here we go. I've ended it. There we go.
So the free expansion into a vacuum, as described in the second law of thermodynamics, a natural law or law of nature, whichever you prefer. Is that incorrect?
It's not described in the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics makes no mention of expanding into doing free expansion.
You don't think free expansion in a vacuum is described in the second law of thermodynamics?
Correct.
Yes, it is. You abject moron. That's an entropy increase. Are you really this thick?
No mention. It makes no mention of free expansion. Because the
gas
second law is
expansion into a vacuum. Mixing of ideal gases or liquids, diffusion, effusion, colligative effects on osmosis. Each fundamentally involves an increase in entropy. You're in dipshit.
Stand.
Rumpus, is the second law of thermodynamics the entropy law?
Law of thermodynamics specifically mentions free expansion into a space, and you're a moron. You don't know what the second law of thermodynamics is.
Just detailed it. All you did was talk through it, you coward.
Is it entropy?
What's happening, Chocolate, is when something's put to him, so when it's detailed, as it just was by Quantum Eraser, he talks constantly, so he doesn't have to listen to it. It's like the coward's way of shutting down anything that's put to him so he doesn't have to respond to it. So he's just listened to it described, and then literally, because he's talked through every word that QE said, he can claim he hasn't heard it. So what, I can just carry on with his rhetoric that it doesn't exist? It's not described as the second law of thermodynamics? Yeah, it is.
You can apply the second law of thermodynamics to that situation, but...
Oh, you can? Oh, excellent. So let's move on. So the expansion of gas into a vacuum can be described by the second law of thermodynamics.
It's not in the definition of the second law of thermodynamics for expansion.
So it's describing that process then, pretty much exactly as I say.
And it does not specifically mention about the free expansion, which you said it did. And you...
Oh, so gas expansion, that's not an entropy increase.
I didn't hear the start of that sentence because you...
That's because you're a coward and this is pummeling you. Because you know where we're going with this. Yeah? Gas would expand into a sky vacuum if we had one. It's described in the second law of thermodynamics. It's an entropy increase.
I didn't hear the start of your sentence.
Yeah, no, you're not listening to a word we say. We know. I point out to the audience while you talk through every word that I say that you've shut down mentally so that you don't have to listen to anything that's put to you. I still put it so that the audience can hear that you could have listened to it had you shut up. But when then you get the chance to actually respond to anything I've said, you say, oh, I couldn't hear it because you've been talking constantly.
So try taking turns. So I'll stop now and then you can speak.
How about
What's the question?
try offering the field equations QE asked you from the beginning? You've been dodging.
Oh, well, okay.
That's what I
can go
wanna
back
hear.
to that. I don't know. Because, so which do you want me to do? Do you want me to go and find this field equation thing, or do you want me to answer this question on myself?
It seems you're stupid, slow, maybe deaf. I asked you to calculate Hillbilly Blueball's mass-attracting mass claim using Einstein's field equations, and about 5 separate times you've told us that you wouldn't use it, you'd dilute it down to Newtonian maths. So we're already pretty much clear that you can't do it with Einstein. And then we've got quotes that we've played you back of you telling us how it cannot be done, numerically. So we're all acutely aware of the scenario when it comes to Einstein calculating a mass attracting another mass. It cannot be done. We know already.
You just said I couldn't do it numerically. You can do it always numerically.
Okay, let's just play the doublespeak quote.
Speaking Dunning-Kruger Rumpus, June 19th, 2020.
Einstein's field equations cannot solve for more than one mass.
Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation, but they...
So you can't solve this little problem that Brian's presented you with Einstein's field equations then? You cannot do it then? That would make you a liar.
You can solve it numerically. You can solve it numerically. Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation. You can solve it numerically. Yes, you can't solve them numerically with as an equation.
Yeah, that's just misspeaking. Yeah, you can. That's just me misspeaking. You can solve it numerically always. So yes, I used the word "it." I added a bonus word in there while you were presumably shouting at me. So
a bonus word that was completely in contradiction of something that you said earlier is just a misspeak. So you can calculate mass attracting mass numerically with Einstein. So we don't need Newton. You can do it numerically.
every other word you misspeak. Every other word you misspeak.
That's fascinating. So it's back to an attack on me while I'm putting to him that the thing we've asked for about the last 20 straight minutes we'd like doing, which is that mass attracting mass with Einstein's field equations.
Solve it numerically. You misspeak every other few words.
Yeah, back to the personal attack on me. Fascinating, fascinating. Yes,
So why doesn't he
feeble-minded,
just solve it?
small-minded people, they'll talk about other people. We're talking about this concept of mass attracting mass and how it would be numerically worked out in Einstein. But you're just interested in people because you're a pathetic-minded little weasel.
All the time. But right, so here we go. So that
Start a sentence that doesn't start with you. Start it with, I can calculate mass attracting mass with Einstein, and here's the equation, and it being done.
that rather than the fact you don't understand the second.
So it is going to be you, talking about people, ad hominem, personal attacks, like the feeble-minded. That's what feeble-minded people talk about. Yeah? We're talking about concepts. We're talking about the nature of reality, and all you can do is talk about me.
No, I'm talking about on the contrary. I'm talking about the thing. I'm sticking on focus, but unfortunately, you keep on making.
You back to talking about me within the same stuttering sentence. You feeble-minded, pathetic little individual. We're asking you to calculate mass attracting mass using Einstein's field equations, and all you can do is stammer and stammer, and then immediately start talking about me again.
Like you, Nathan. Come on, what?
You. You're a feeble-minded man. That's all you can do. Talk about people. We're talking about the nature of reality here. You're just a pathetic-minded little man.
Understand the difference between the second.
You don't understand. So back to talking about me again.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I know, because you're a feeble-minded little twat. All you can do is talk about people. We're attempting to get you to claim that you have this equation from Einstein that calculates mass attracting mass. Yeah, but you're never going to get to it because that's far too complex for your feeble mind. You just need to talk about me, like all the other pathetic wankers that are obsessed with me.
You're the one who likes.
Yeah, you're the one that's blah, 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 blah. You're obsessed with me, like all the other pathetic twats that come here. All you can think about is me personally. Me, I'm interested in the nature of the world. You're interested in me. It's sad.
You are the one.
You're here to pick up men and talk about me and ask other guys on the panel about where they're from and what they do. That's all you're interested in, you sad little man. Go to a dating site for men.
One. You are the abuser.
Go to a dating site. You seem obsessed with me. It's all you can talk about. I'm attempting to ask you to do the maths.
Right,
all you can do is talk about me.
Let's talk about the science then. Okay, even though you personalise and abuse,
even though you immediately talking about what I've done, you are obsessed with me, you creepy little stalker. Can you try for one sentence to not talk about me personally? It's getting really creepy and weird. Rumpus. You were trying to talk about Einstein's field equations, and all you can do is talk about me. It's really creeping me out.
Talking about it, not me. You're the one who's talking about you, not me. Here we are. I've just posted the paper, the Tollish paper, about the deriving the Newton's
We already went through that about a week ago and destroyed it. Do the equation specifically for hillbilly blue balls, non-scientific experiment from 106 year out-of-date pseudoscience.
You've never destroyed any math.
Oh, it's on to a personal attack against Quantum Eraser.
Wow.
We can now hear about how obsessed you are with Quantum Eraser personally, rather than this quasi-experiment getting ripped apart by non-equations being applicable from Einstein. Yeah, it seems that we're on an obviously different intellectual level to this complete clown, who's just obsessed with us personally.
QE has made...
Yeah, immediately, the first words off his lips about QE personally. Yeah, we know you're obsessed with us. Go to some gay dating site. Get out of here.
And this is the guy...
You're going to start talking about him again. It's so creepy, you creepy man.
The guy.
Nathan, why don't you ask...
Don't say my name again, you creepy little man. We're talking about Einstein's field equations. You don't need to bring my name into it, you creepy little perv.
Acuity. Why don't you ask him how...
Why are you asking about me and what I'm asking? Stop focusing on us. It's getting really creepy, don't you get it? We're trying to talk about field equations and mass attracting mass, and all you obsess about is us.
Well, he made the claim he
did this. He did that. Yeah, we're talking about Einstein, mate.
Claim that he's wrecked this paper, and I'm just pointing out this is a guy who can't even do...
Oh, so it's back to another personal obsession you have about him. This is the guy who can't. So you're going to talk about him personally. You're creepy. You realise how creepy this is?
The paper, Nathan.
Creepy, mate. This is a guy who blah, 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 my personal feelings.
That he'd invalidated this paper. And I'm pointing out this guy cannot do high school math. He can't work out how long it would take something to drop.
Yeah, that's a personal
just to
attack.
try to help you out, man.
You're
do
obsessed with
realize
him.
It's becoming ridiculous. Every time you come here and you say, I can solve for these Einstein equations, and you don't.
Ever.
It's funny.
Do you realize that's
Do you want
becoming
to go
a
through the
little
paper,
bit
Nathan?
ridiculous?
This is the one that QE apparently
and then you
invalidated.
keep
Do you want to go
referring
through
to this paper that we already talked about a week ago, and you still can't solve for these equations.
We're asking him to do some maths. And he goes, here's a paper. It's like, how could that possibly be for something that has just literally been done by Hillbilly Blue Balls? You think this paper's on Hillbilly? But he's so stupid, he doesn't even listen to what he's being asked for.
Right, here you go.
Well,
we have laws and theories.
That's fascinating. And we're asking for you to do a bit of maths. Can't you do a bit of maths?
We can do it generally. So we've got...
Generally? No, I'm not asking you to do it generally. Maths, mate. Just do the equation, you thicko. Can't you do it?
And apply them in specific circumstances.
Yes, specifically apply Einstein's field equations to Hillbilly's nonsense.
We can apply the field equations to Blue Science's experiment.
To who? Hillbilly?
First name basis now, huh?
Blue Science, Big Blue Science's experiment. We can apply it to that. And I was going to go through you to demonstrate what I'm then going to go through and demonstrate which equation.
You keep telling us how you can do it, and we're saying, okay, do it then.
Rightio. Well, do you want me to go through the derivation?
Maybe ask what you're going to do, you abject clown, so you don't understand what you need to do still. You need clarity.
I do.
Well, that's because you're thick. So literally after 50 minutes of discussing what we're asking over and over again, you're so stupid that you need clarity.
So I'm now sharing my screen.
Screen?
And here we go. Screen. Here we go.
Share that screen. I swear my screen too.
So you see, Nathan, this is it. It's your abusive policy. You're not interested in the science, are you? You can't do the science.
We're asking for maths.
Science, it's mathematics.
Sorry, are you stupid? Do you know the difference between maths and science? We're asking for maths. Even now, he's still saying you don't know what science is. Another personal attack on me because he's obsessed. Creepy little sod. Nevertheless, we're asking for maths.
We'll do the math.
I don't think Rumpus can do.
We do the math for Big Blue Science's experiment. And so here we've got the formula. This is the one that's going to derive. We're going to use that one there. You can see that. That's the there we go. That's the equation we're going to use, and we're going to apply in.
What are you talking about? He can't show your screen.
Here is the formula
Are
on
you
screen.
trying to share screens in
Here's the formula on
Discord? You know
screen,
that's not
QE. I
going to
know
work,
you
right?
can't cope with numbers and you can't cope with
He knows what he's
equations.
doing.
And by the way, you'll notice there are 3 independent variables here. Look,
Rumpus,
2 masses
focus,
and a distance.
focus.
Look at that. 3 independent
Focus, Rumpus.
variables.
We
2
can't
masses and
see
a
your
distance.
screen.
3
So,
independent.
You're going to have to
You
write
can't
these
see my
down
screen.
and copy and paste it in Discord.
You can't see my screen.
You paste it
I
into
can't
live
see your
chat.
screen. Okay? So you're going to have to do it
can't
on your
see my
own
screen.
and then copy and paste it
No.
in Discord. This should be easy for you to do.
No, it's no, that's fine. That's fine. You should be able to see that. You should be able to see that. If you go click on my icon there, yeah, in fact, I can see it sharing. It's streaming that. Yeah, it's there. It's live.
We
You
can't see your
you click on-
screen, Wumpus.
Are
Well,
you
you
really
need to
this
go and click
stupid?
on my live
They
button
aren't.
too.
Screen.
They aren't
You need
in
to go and click on my
Discord.
live button,
He's trying
QE.
to
You need to go
live
and click on my
stream from
live
the
button.
Save the screen and then upload it on Discord.
No, go and look at my live feed. You can click on the live button in the
We
after
can't
show.
do
They're
that.
not in Discord,
we can't
Dumbo.
see your screen.
Hello, they're not in Discord.
Go and
Post
click on
it.
the live button, QE. Go and click on the live button. You'll be able to see.
Okay, QE is saying click on the live button. So hold on, hello, hold on, Adam. So QE, can you click on the live button, please?
And then you'll see my screen. So there we
I was gonna
go.
say, but
And
if
so
you do-
hopefully
if
QE's
you are
managed to
going
do
to
that
write it
simple
out,
task.
Rumpus, it'd be really handy because then we can
So
check
then-
it later as well. Because
He's just sharing Tollish's paper, the one that we kicked the shit out of before, not any equations with hillbilly blue balls.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
He's a coward.
Oh, Tollish paper. No, we have actually asked you to do the mathematics, and we've already gone through this paper.
Yes, and I'm doing that. Yes. And I'm using this paper to show you how the field equations become the Newtonian equation.
Oh, so again, you're going to change it to Newtonian when we're specifically asking you to do it with the Einsteinian?
There are just terms that go to 0. That's all. It's
Just terms that go to 0. Sorry, no. What we're asking for is you to do the Einsteinian mathematics, and you're saying here's a paper that shows how I can justify doing it with Newtonian.
which is the Newtonian equations are part of Einstein's equations.
Oh, really? These two collaborated? When did they collaborate?
No, it doesn't require collaboration. If you come up with
Oh, it doesn't?
equation, and then the Einstein's reduces down to Newtonian, they are effectively one's a subset of the other, one's a superset of the other. It's very simple.
I see. So therefore, given that Newtonian has mass attracting mass, can you calculate that in Einstein's field equations then?
Yes, you can.
And would it be using Einstein's field equations or changing them back to Newtonian?
Doesn't change them.
Just change them to Newtonian.
Anthony, go on mute.
What rang 999? Yeah. And Inspector came down.
Yeah.
Anthony, go on mute. You're hot micing.
Just a quick question for the Rumpus on this paper. Just looking at it, and it says general relativity and the Newtonian limit. What does the word limit mean in relation to
It
this?
means that in the
saying?
limiting case for where I'll explain it if you let me finish. So when you have what I'm going to call a benign situation, like the surface of the Earth, you're not in a black hole.
No.
You're not moving. Can I just finish? Can I just finish my sentence, you twat? Can you stop interrupting me? Can you stop interrupting me?
No,
I'm
because
nearly
you
there. It's
rambled
only
off
going to be a
onto
short
something
sentence.
completely different. General relativity and the Newtonian limit. The limit relates to what?
You get your turn.
Just
It's only a short
specific.
sentence. It's only a short sentence. So in the case of being on the Earth where the gravity is not very strong, you're not in a black hole, you're not moving at the speed of light, then the general relativity, the equations in Einstein's field equations then become in the limit, what's called the Newtonian limit, become Newton's equations because all those other terms go to 0. Finished.
That's lovely. Now, I got your screen sharing. Nathan, you got this?
Yeah.
There's your screen sharing. We're back at the Tallish paper. We don't need the Tallish paper. We need Hillbilly Blue Balls non-experiment from 106 years out of date pseudoscience. We're going to need Einstein's field equations solving for Hillbilly's non-experiment.
You do understand that Einstein said everything in general relativity agrees with Newton.
I don't really
don't you?
care what he said.
Well, you just claimed it was contradicting Newton. It doesn't. And Einstein said it
Yeah,
didn't.
it does. We already went over
No,
that
it
a
doesn't.
number of times. So
Einstein, who
solve
wrote
the
the damn thing,
equations
said it
now.
didn't. So
Stop
you're wrong,
diverting.
aren't you? Einstein said that he
Put
in
the
no way
equations up
contradicted
here, not
anything Newton
Tollish's
had done.
paper.
So you're arguing with
So
Einstein
I'm
now, even though you're
asking
claiming to
you
agree
to
with him, you're
do
not.
what you claimed
are
it did. That's what I'm asking you. Now do it.
You're contradicting Einstein's own words. He said
Do
that
it
Newton
now.
he was not in any way contradicting any of
All right, well, we can
Newton's
stop sharing then because
field,
he's just going to
Newton's
babble
universal
on
general
about nonsense Tallish.
general relativity. Yeah, you just disagreeing with Einstein. You're claiming Einstein was contradicting Newton.
Are you gonna?
He said
Are
it
you gonna
agrees
present this or
completely.
no?
Yeah, okay, so here we go. I'm presenting now. I'm showing you.
This is
we're going to go
Tollish's
through it.
paper.
Well,
You
presumably.
dipshit.
Do what? I missed you. Interrupted me again.
We
you
want it with
moron.
Einstein's field equations.
Oh my
not
God,
Tollish.
we're not reviewing. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
I'd rather
Take
not. I'll go
hillbilly
with it.
blue balls.
It's just idiocy.
Non-experiment pseudoscience from
It is
106
an
years
experiment.
out of date.
It's a great experiment. It's a great,
Take
great
this
experiment.
paper
One
off
of the
the
best
screen.
experiments.
We want a
One
clean
of the
sheet of
best
paper,
experiments
and we
He's
want
just
you to
rumpusing
solve
you.
the
He's
equation.
just causing a
for it.
disturbance, John.
Hey, John,
Well done,
get
John.
Get him to read that opening line on 1.1.
1.1.
Sorry, Rumpus is talking right through you guys the whole time. We can't hear a thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm being overtalked. Thank you for pointing that out. Great. Excellent.
No, he pointed out that you're over talking everything that we're saying so that you don't have to respond to it. So while you had John just pointing out what we're asking for again, you said it's a great experiment. It's a wonderful experiment through every word he said.
It's a great experiment.
Like you're doing now.
Experiment.
Yeah, like
Can
you're
you
doing
read out
now.
the first line on that 1.1, please, Rumpus?
Therefore, mass has no visible effect on the body's response to gravity.
Oh dear, I thought mass attracted mass.
Ow.
I'm going to stop.
Ow! Ooh, Rumpus.
That's gonna leave a mark.
That's going to leave a mark.
Yes.
I think you've misunderstood what that says. That in any way, I don't know why you think that in any way invalidates the law that he's giving you.
One's a force, one's not a force.
It gets a lot worse on page 3, the first paragraph on page 3.
Can you read that as well, Rumpus?
Okay, this one, page 3. At this point, we will introduce physics in the form of Einstein equation. Yes, what's the problem with that?
Who said one was a force and one's not a force?
Just like when you do a perspective calculation,
So
you get a
hold on,
3D
hold on,
world being projected in a
hold
2D
on.
world, and the Einstein's bending of space-time manifests itself in a 3D world as a force. So it does.
Rumpus.
Really? So we got two
So
different
one is the
worlds.
effect, the other is a force.
Hold on.
Hold on a second. We got two different worlds, right? Is that what you're
We've
saying?
got 3 people over talking one another here. Can the first person let him finish?
Yeah, yeah.
Highlander is not even qualified to have this conversation.
One of them said that one was a force
on a
and one's
second.
not a force.
Now that he's not
I want
gonna
to
complete.
know who said what was a force and what's not a force.
Is it a Highlander?
Who said that?
Oh my God! Can I answer that question?
That's
Can I
Highlander.
answer that
Yeah,
point?
we got him stopped. Okay, Rumpus, since you're not going to solve the equations like you said you were going to do, you just said that we have two different worlds. What are the two different worlds, please?
We have the 4D space-time world and the 3D world, which we live in, which we experience.
We live in a 3D world, but there's another world out there too?
Correct.
You need to be institutionalized immediately, horse tranquilized, rubber roomed, and forced lobotomized, sir.
Wait, how do we find the 4D world, Rumpus? Where's that?
Right. We know that there are some things about Newton's laws that don't quite work. So, for instance, the orbit of Mercury, the fact that time changes. There are a number of other things that happen that we cannot account for. And when we go into a 4D world, and then we have the bending
When
of
do we do that?
space-time-
That's
Hold
what
on.
I'm
How
curious
do we go into the 4D world physically? How do we go into it?
I'm very curious.
Nearly there. Nearly there.
Nathan, if as Rumpus just said, we know there are things about Newton's laws that aren't correct. Well, if we know they're not correct, how can we call them laws?
In the 4D world, we can account for all of these effects. And so therefore we'll be able to
Rumpus.
infer its existence because it makes all sorts of predictions, like the orbit of Mercury, like the fact that there's
We
gravitational
heard that.
redshift.
You're repeating yourself. We heard all this.
Changes.
We heard.
So there are a number of things.
Yeah, we're
So
not
you're
deaf.
saying the
We heard.
orbit of Mercury doesn't work in the 3D world we live in? That only makes
I
sense
missed
in the
you
4D world.
You interrupted me, so I didn't hear what the start of your sentence. You have to say it again.
You said things like
Wanna say it
the
again?
orbit of Mercury. That doesn't make sense in the 3D world we live in, but if we go into the 4D world, then it makes sense? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
How do we go into it?
Oh, shit. When the hell do we go into the 4D world, Rumpus?
Well, if we do the analysis of science in the 4D world, it makes sense.
No, how do we physically go into it?
You don't have to go into that world.
Oh, we don't have to go into Einstein's world. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, our senses experience
You guys
the
are
3D world,
forgetting you
but
need
the
your
maths and the
imaginations
science
on.
can go into 4 dimensions. And
So the maths and the science can go there, but we can't.
Can I ask
Correct.
Rumpus
Can
a
I get a
question?
day ticket to go one
So,
day if I wanted
Is
to
a
go?
4D
Rumpus?
world only comparable in mathematics?
But does
Well,
it even
obviously,
exist
we can't
outside
move.
of
We can't.
mathematics?
We can't put experiments and do things in the sort of space-time world, but we can see it's manifesting the effects in our world, like the orbit of Mercury, like gravitational redshift. So we can do experiments that measure the effect of the 4D world, but we can't move around in that 4D world.
How do you know
But if
these effects come from the 4D world, Rumpus?
If it's non-reality, how are you manipulating the course?
No,
Because it's only mathematical.
My question is a
Well-
good one. How do you know
well,
these effects come from the 4D world? How do you know this?
Because by inference, because that things like the orbit of Mercury, we cannot account for it in our 3D world science. So, but we see them in a 4D world.
Let me get it right. An orbit of a planet, you're saying cannot be accounted for. That would be the motion in a circle, the presupposition that it falls around another body, can't be accounted for in the 3D world.
Correct.
So your assumption that we have orbits can't be accounted for in the 3D world. So we don't have orbits. That's the world we live in.
Listen,
'cause they don't
the orbit of Mercury, the orbit of the Earth and Venus, etc., we can account for using Newtonian equations, but not the orbit of Mercury.
Orbits are begging the question, Paladin.
The closer you get to a massive...
Ignore me completely. Orbit is a begging the question fallacy.
What? We know that orbits. We know that orbits. We can.
Oh, so you're going to justify it by just immediately saying we already know? I.e., literally, the begging the question fallacy is your justification. We already know. It's a begging the question fallacy.
Well, I don't know which thing you think.
Which stuttering Mongol doesn't understand that it's a begging the question fallacy? That would be Rumpus, the stuttering moron. That's right. It's a begging the question fallacy. Orbits begs the question.
You've got a brain that doesn't work.
Oh, it's back to fantasizing about me, is it? It's back to pervy, creepy Rumpus. The moment he's defeated, he turns into a real creepy guy, obsessed with me, the moment he gets defeated. So I've pointed out, let's just summarise, that his argument, nothing to do with him personally, merely his argument about orbits. I've pointed out that it's a begging the question fallacy. He's then rebutted that by saying we already know, which is in essence a begging the question fallacy justification, by saying I already know, so it's okay to beg the question. And then he starts attacking me personally.
I know that 1 + 1 is equal to 2, and then I can use that to work out other things. Similarly, we can watch for instance, the orbits of the moons of Jupiter.
But not the
and say,
orbit
oh,
of
look,
Mercury?
the moons of Jupiter go round in an orbit. And we've
Okay,
got
and can you do that in Newtonian with the orbits of, say, Venus?
evidence.
What about with Venus? Can you do that in the 3D world?
Do what, sorry?
You just told us you couldn't do that with Venus.
You keep on interrupting the end of my sentence.
Oh, really? I'll repeat it again. That's no worries. You said you couldn't do that with Venus, though, in the 3D world.
Yeah, with Venus we can. It's Mercury you can't. Listen more.
Mercury. Oh, so we can't do these orbital calculations then?
Not in all cases, no.
Oh, right. So they're wrong.
No. There are just like this paper talks about the Newtonian limit.
So there's limitations to it. I mean, I thought science had an empirical method of establishing cause and effect, and yet here we are talking about limitations of 3D world that we live in that can't calculate for Mercury's orbit, so it can't do it. Well, that means it's wrong. It can't do it. It's got limitations.
No, this is what the idea of
What do you mean no? You just told me it's got the limit. You tried to explain away how we had the Einsteinian limit. And now you're saying no?
Do you remember the terms of those Einstein?
Why are you asking about me again, you creepy perv? I don't talk about me and what I remember. Let's talk about the limitations of Einstein and Newton.
I told you about the fact there's an equation, Einstein field equations have 10 terms or whatever.
And that's 3D reality that we live in.
Case of Mercury.
Sorry, we're back onto 4D. This isn't a world we live in.
Terms are not zero.
Sorry, we're talking about the 4D space-time we don't live in again, aren't we?
So we can use Newtonian laws on the Earth, but to account for its orbit, but
and that can do for Mercury, can it? That can do Mercury.
Not zero.
Not Mercury, though.
We can't use Newtonian laws to work out the orbit of Mercury, no.
So it's wrong?
We can get close.
It's wrong. Close? Science is empirical, not close. You're just talking about correlation.
Job. But it doesn't do it exactly.
So it's wrong? Yeah, exact. Well, what do you mean? It's vague, wishy-washy, just about, kind of right, maybe be replaced 106 years ago.
And because you don't understand science, you don't understand that everything...
Oh, why do you constantly get all creepy in what I do and don't understand? Whenever you're defeated, it seems he turns into a creepy perv. Starts talking about me and his obsession with me.
You don't understand...
Yeah, back to me and your obsession with me, you creepy perv. How many times have I got to tell you? This isn't your relationship with me and what you think about my feelings and thoughts. Let's not worry about your creepy obsession with me now.
Error with Mercury, but they work really well for all the other planets. But they've only
Why
one,
doesn't it work,
1%.
Rumpus?
It's less.
Why?
It's something like 0.5% or something for Mercury, Newtonian laws. So therefore we say, well, that's not so. Why aren't they exact? We ask ourselves. And then we find out that
this sounds kind of like why Alberuni couldn't measure the horizon where it was supposed to be according to the geometry, but it was close, right? It was close, so not correct. It's the same thing, it seems.
No, right, exactly. Well, actually, I mean, you're correct. Yes.
Excellent. So not correct, not accurate, just wrong, kind of close, kind of vague, wishy-washy. I thought this was all body of science, done deal, we know really accurately. Seems sometimes you can tell us all about the accuracy that you've got and how well you know, and other times you come and tell us how it doesn't quite work, there's limitations, things have to be changed and moved around. It's all a bit pathetic, really, the heliocentric world. All kind of wishy-washy and vague.
Can you stop to speak for a second? Telling us about
shut up, man.
Planets in your solar system that you cannot account for in the 3D world that
your sentence is wrong. 5 minutes, man.
Don't know the size of protons.
Yeah, it is. Your sentence is too long.
So does that mean to say that we give
your
up?
Sentence is going to the Mercury, man.
Because we don't know the size of protons.
Because,
hold on, nearly there. I've nearly finished. Because we don't know the size of protons.
He's not interested in listening to anybody. None of their objections will get through. Just keep talking, indefinitely.
Nathan, let me read this. It's from Rumpus's equation, Rumpus's citation. Can you see my screen?
I'll put it back up. I did have it up a second ago. Yep.
So this is from Rumpus's citation from Alexander Tolish. I've highlighted the key bits. I'm not going to read all of it. Therefore, mass has no visible effect on a body's response to gravity. All particles behave the same way in the same gravitational field. Right? But then it goes on, it says, this distinction prompted Einstein to make the hypothesis that lies at the heart of general relativity. Gravity is not simply a phenomena that takes place in space-time. Rather, gravity is space-time, warped by the presence of mass and energy. Einstein quantified this revelation with the Einstein field equation that we're talking about now. We can interpret Newton's laws of gravity as an equation describing the strength of a scalar gravitational field as a function of mass distribution. Similarly, we can say that Einstein's equation tells us how space and time curve as a function of a more abstract mass-energy distribution. That is poetry.
Go up. Read the first statement again. Go up.
What do you mean?
Scroll up.
Do you mean say it's untrue? You're trying to say it's untrue, Anthony?
Scroll up.
It's poetry. It's poetry.
Therefore,
so you're saying, hold on,
mass has no visible effect on the body's response to gravity.
Saying it's wrong.
Ouch.
Are you saying it's wrong? Or are you saying it's well written? Which of those two are you saying?
Hold on.
Holy
Hold on, guys.
This is what I was saying.
Hello, Brian, just 1 second. Rumpus is asking... Oh, God. Hello. Rumpus is asking Sleeping Warrior, does that mean that this description of something abstract is wrong.
It's poetry. It's abstract. It's like Max Planck. Experiment is the only means of knowledge at our disposal. Anything else is just poetry, imagination. This is that poetry.
Specifically says it's abstract, Trumpus. Didn't you read the bit where it says it's abstract?
Because it's abstract 4D space, but it still manifests itself as an...
Abstract 4D space is abstract. Yeah? Are you delusional?
3D space.
Yeah, that's not real. It's abstract. Poetry. Not real.
Prove it.
Prove what? We've just been told by you that we can't go there and it's not real. It's being described in this paper as abstract.
Everything in this paper has got physical consequences which we can measure.
Can we ever get to 4D space?
Well, you can't move around in it. With us, we can't move around in it, but it does exist.
You delusional.
How do we know that? How do we know that?
For a point of clarity. So it goes from 4D space into the real 3D space where the orbit of Mercury doesn't work.
Correct.
What we'll summarise. Brilliant. So,
well, it does work if you use the equation of 4D space.
Even the math that you have that's real and tangible.
So we don't exist in that world.
When you presuppose an orbit and put that into the real world as you describe it, that doesn't work as well.
So I missed the start. Someone interrupted. I missed the first 4 or 5 words of your sentence. Can you repeat that, please?
Incorrect. An incorrect description of what you're observing, doesn't it? Because the maths doesn't work. Therefore, the maths is an incorrect description.
No, the maths does work. I missed the start of your sentence.
To prove that your reification of orbits via this mathematics is incorrect, and it proves itself incorrect. I think that's brilliant what you've shown today. I'd just like to apologise to John
4 or 5 words
because he's going to have to redo his top 50, isn't he, after today?
The position, the 4D maths and the 4D space gives us all the correct answers in our 3D world, but if you apply Newton's laws in our 3D world,
wait,
don't
is
get
that
the
where
right
we
answer.
experience the 4D?
So
It's in
all
the
the
math?
Einstein stuff works. It gives us the right
where
answers, and that's why we know it's correct. Because we can
the only
test
place we
can
experience is 4D is in the mathematics. Is that what you're saying?
test these 4D equations because they manifest themselves in the physical real world, which we can measure, like the orbit of Mercury, like time dilation.
So working that backwards basically means that you you bring it into existence with maths. That's what you're saying.
No, he's just saying he's doing that because you can't. How do you bring it into reality, Trumpus? How do you do that?
It's engineered it.
Test it.
We've inferred, for instance, before we knew about the existence of the positron. Can I just finish my sentence? For instance, in the case of the positron or atoms, we inferred their existence by the evidence that we had for their existence without actually seeing them. We've only been able to see atoms in the last 20, 30 years, but we decided they existed from all the evidence we had. Similarly, we've been able to infer the existence of this 4D world from all the evidence we've got, which gives us like the correct answers for the orbit of Mercury, time dilation, etc., 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 and how GPS works. It's all dependent on the way GPS works, for instance, is entirely dependent on Einstein's field equation.
Are you going to show us the equation?
No,
show it.
That was incorrect what he just said about GPS and
no, don't go to GPS. Don't track along with his nonsense.
I'm not.
He uses Einstein's field equation, Q. I know you don't like it,
He said
but
evidence
it does.
for the 4D. I want to know what that is.
Yes, exactly. I was asking a question about that. So if you infer that it has to be there based on the normal 3D world model having gaps in it, then you're creating a circular reasoning setup because you infer it has to be there because your 3D model is incomplete. But because your 3D model is incomplete, you infer that there is a 4D model. So couldn't you just conclude instead that your 3D model is just incomplete and no matter how fantasizing you put on top of that is going to fix it unless you completely rearrange how you set it up? Would that be a logical sense to do?
We can't fix the 3D model. We can only do it in the 4D. It doesn't work in the 3D.
What?
Yes, but so Rumpus, you would agree then that you guys just made 4D world up because the 3D world didn't work. So in other words, you didn't take the.
Well, that's like saying we made up atoms. That's like saying we made up atoms.
Atoms don't come from a 4D world, though. Atoms don't come from a 4D world.
Same with atoms.
reality.
That's a false equivalence fallacy.
There's a contradiction nobody's noticing.
Yeah.
There's a contradiction. Okay, he said that you cannot move around in the 4D world.
I want to.
If the 4D world is reality, how can I'm moving around in the 4D world, but you just said you can't move around in it? There's a contradiction there, Rumpus.
Atoms.
No, because
long time
he
ago.
says it's inferred to be there because of the gaps in the 3D model, right? But that's circular argument, though, because if there's gaps in the 3D model, in order for you to infer,
Don't let him address. Don't you address it. Let him address it.
It's never going to.
Let him address.
He just said you
cannot move around in the 4D model. So we move around in this world. So obviously there's something amiss there. Because if the reality we live in is a 4D world, but he said you can't move around in it, there's a contradiction.
No, but the only reason he says it's there is because there is gaps in the 3D model, which requires the 4D model to be there to fill the gaps, even though you can't actually go there.
But
you could just
you see, but Owen, that's my point. That's my point. How can he say that because in a 3D world it's not working? So in other words, how can you still base your next 4D world based on something that's not broken? After it's not working, you just try it. So in other words, it's all just fantasy.
Yeah, see, the thing is, you're claiming a 4D world.
Reality.
You're saying that you're seeing something from the 4D world, but you can't clarify.
I can clarify.
It's an assumption.
What happened to clarify? I've told you. We've been able to infer the existence of positrons, atoms, and all sorts of things.
False equivalence fallacy. I already told you that. That has nothing to do with the topic. You're talking about a completely new geometry of the real world. That's a false equivalence fallacy talking about positrons. You friggin' numpty.
Correct, and have been verified.
You're
all
numpty,
the predictions
Mr. Liquid Gas.
Equations have been shown to be
Can you
correct.
tell us what liquid gas is?
Now, can we go back to the mercury not fitting in?
Actually, go and look up liquid gas, and you'll see it's a well-used term to describe liquefied gas. If you don't know that, you're a moron.
Really?
Yeah, go and Google it. Go and Google it, QE, and you'll see that it's a short
liquid gas.
It's a contraction of liquified gas. It's used all the time in the industry. It's used all the time in the industry, you moron.
Can I ask Rumpus a question?
It means that the gas it's turned into a liquid, Rumpus. It doesn't mean the gas is liquid.
Can I address that? Let me address that, Rumpus.
Can I ask Rumpus about the question? Because I've been quiet all the time.
Liquefied gas.
Hang on, I've just done what he said. I've looked up what it says. For liquid gas.
Liquefied.
Hold on.
Liquid gas. I've done what he said. I googled it, and it says liquefied gas is a gas that has been turned into a liquid by cooling or compressing it. So it's not a liquid, and it's not a liquefied gas. It's a gas that's been turned into a liquid. So it's describing the transition stage between one to the other.
Exactly.
It's an origin. Exactly. It went through phase change.
Anthony, are you familiar with the term liquefied gas? Or the phrase liquefied gas? Are you familiar with that?
Can you have a... Hold on. Can you have... What about a gasified solid? Can you have a gasified solid?
So the liquefied gas is a well-known term, and a contraction that is liquid gas that's used in the industry. If you don't know that, well, that's your problem.
Is that your industry? What industry is that? What industry is that?
Go and Google liquid gas, and you'll go and see some
We heard.
definitions of
We've done it. We've read it out, you dumbo. Now we're saying, what industry is that?
Physics, science.
Is that an industry?
Oh, look at liquid gas. It's just gas.
I thought that was science. Hold on.
Industry.
Is that an industry? Sorry, is that an industry? Is that an industry?
Well, you can call it. Well, I think it's also used in the. I've no doubt there's some British oxygen, whatever they're called, BOC, British Oxygen Company. I've no doubt they'd be calling out liquid gas there as well.
Can you give me a citation, please, from BOC?
No, I can't.
So you just made it up.
The
point is you just made it up then. You're a liar. You just made it up.
Rumpus,
liquid gas.
if the gas is...
You moron.
Sorry, I'm a moron. You just made it up.
Rumpus.
Oh, God. You just made it up. You said, I'm sure BOC used this term in the industry. Can you cite it? No, I can't. So you literally just made it up then. They would use it. Can you cite it?
Yes.
Go on then.
Nathan, if you take ice, if you take ice and melt ice,
here we go.
would it still be solid?
sometimes referred to.
Sorry, this is Wikipedia. I asked for a citation from BOC.
Deal. So people who deal with liquefied
people. This isn't BOC. This is Wikipedia. Do you not understand the difference between Wikipedia and BOC?
because it's sometimes referred to as liquid.
Sometimes, and do they cite that?
I'll make do with that quote.
Does it cite it? Does it say when it says sometimes used as? Does it put a little citation that you can click on?
No.
So you just made up BOC then?
No, there's no.
No, you did. Yeah, that's exactly what you did, you liar.
I know you need to have real.
Oh, back to obsessing about me, are we? So we've established in your argument, nothing to do with you personally, that you have made up a citation that you cannot provide. As an example, to your wiki entry.
Contraction of liquefied gas. It's a contraction of liquefied gases.
And that's used by
It's
BOC,
not-
is it?
No.
That's used as a term that BOC uses, it? Or did you just lie and make that up off the top of your head because you like making stuff up?
Accepted term.
Accepted term by BOC?
Is gasoline still a gas, Rumpus?
BOC accept this term, do they? Hold on. BOC accept this term, do they? Would
well, that's
BOC
good guess,
accept
by the
this
way.
term? Hello? Would they
Well, I
accept
mean,
it?
you could argue everything is a
I could argue it, but would they accept it as a term, BOC specifically?
tend to use it term with things like the reason that BOC would use that term.
Would use or do use? Would use according to you? No, we've already established that you don't know this and you've made it up. Don't tell us what BOC would do. Why are you speaking on behalf of BOC? Do BOC know that you're speaking on their behalf?
Room temperature.
Do BOC know you're speaking on their behalf?
So you normally
Do BOC know that you speak on their behalf?
liquid. So that's the sort
I'm
of
going to
thing
need
that a
to...
person
Purse, you're not listening. I'm asking if BOC know that you're speaking on their behalf.
and it normally lives in a gaseous form. So that's the sort of
He's ignoring me. I'm asking a very specific question about his reference that he can't back about BOC. Do they know you speak on their behalf?
Yeah,
BOC, so you're employed by BOC.
What?
might have been.
So you are a former employee of BOC.
Might have been. Who knows?
So why do you feel you can and are speaking on their behalf?
I'm telling you the situation, and the quote there says that sometimes referred to liquid gas, and that's absolutely correct.
What, from Wiki?
I'm doing that.
Stuttering because you're representing BOC.
So I'm saying that's the sort of person that would be using the term liquid gas.
The sort of person. So you now speak on behalf of employees of BOC.
The question is now:
Are you a union representative for BOC?
do you understand?
Why are you talking about me again? It's back to his creepy obsession with me. When I ask, is he a union representative for BOC?
No, why are you asking about me?
Because you are speaking on behalf of an entire employee group set.
Do you understand by
Back to me again, personally. Yeah, you are speaking on behalf of an entire employee set of people under BOC, and I'm asking if you're a union rep for them.
What do you think that liquefied gas means, Nathan?
I'm asking why you reference BOC and if you are somehow in authority to do so. Because if not, there's a problem here. Because you seem to be speaking on behalf of a very large corporation. And if you're not employed by them, won't disclose if you're a former employee, and are not a union rep, I'm asking why the hell you'd be talking on their behalf.
I'm asking you whether or not you understand what liquefied gas is, and you're not answering me.
Liquefied gas as used as a term by BOC according to you, who represents them somehow.
Do you know what liquefied gas means?
I know that you seem to represent
do you know
BOC
the four
here.
states of matter? What are the four states of matter?
Question: easy yes or no. You don't have to
What
reveal
are
any
the four
personal
states of
information.
matter?
Do you understand what liquefied gas means?
What are the four
You're not
states of
going to
matter,
answer.
please?
I don't, either you don't know or you're frightened to admit it. Either way, you're either a lying twat or
Can
you're
we
a moron.
have solid
you can
gas?
pick which.
Yeah, I said this. Can we have a liquefied solid?
Yes.
What about gaseous solid?
You could have a liquefied solid.
What about gaseous solid? Can we have a gaseous solid?
Normally,
What about gaseous solid?
There is used as an adjective, and the state of the solid would be.
Oh,
at
it's
room
now an
temperature, is
English
normally how that's
teacher.
used. So it's just simple terminology, Nathan. I know you're having a problem with this, but it's very easy, really.
Who uses
Yeah,
this
it's liquid.
terminology? Who uses it? Beyond
Oh,
your reference in Wiki, you've already told us that BOC use it, but you can't back that.
These three phases.
Rumpus.
You could say
Rumpus, you
steel.
understand?
Oh, we could say steel is a liquid in one of its phases, but we tend to talk about
What?
temperature.
You know what?
Is it a liquid
you know
gas?
What past tense means, Rumpus?
Is it a liquid gas? Is steel a liquid gas, though?
What? I told you
Did
how
you know what
how it
past
works,
tense
Nathan.
means?
Is steel a liquid gas?
I don't know what you're talking about, Nathan.
Your liquid gases.
I think you're the one having trouble with
Not
it.
at all.
It's just a gas turned into a liquid.
Exactly.
So we
Well
can-
done. Well said, Jim Jam. You've got it. Well done.
Well, they're two different things.
So it
Apparently that's
wouldn't be
beyond
the
Nathan.
same thing
You've
then,
just
would it,
hopefully-
They're
Rumpus?
different things then.
Turned into Rumpus. That's the key statement. You
Correct.
numpty
Well done, Jim
dipshit.
Jam. You've got it exactly.
Yeah, well, we're correcting you here, you dumbo. Alice, thank you. Well done. You've got it right. Yeah, we've just spent the last 20 minutes trying to correct you on this, you idiot. With you referencing BOC.
Doctor, you need to ask
he
Nathan about this,
referenced
Jim Jam.
BLC 'cause he can't
He
answer
seems to
the
think this is a very
questions
interesting
you
subject
asked him.
because he doesn't understand what liquid.
Now he's encouraging others to be creepy towards me. My God. Do you think you're my pimp or something? Creepy man. You don't need to be encouraging others to be creepy towards me, you creepy little sod.
It's you. You dodge the. You dodge.
You.
You just want to
You. You're obsessed with me. It's really creepy.
revel in the abuse, Nathan, because you can't.
Now you're telling me how I feel about abuse. My God. You are super uber creepy.
Ron, do you find.
Now you're stuttering. When someone points out just how creepy you are, you get all stuttery. You are genuinely obsessed with me. It's genuinely creepy, Rumpus.
You get punched.
What is
Did
this?
you
Are
get
you
punched in the
attacking him
face,
now?
Nathan,
Are
at
you-
work?
Are you running scared?
Did you get
Rumpus?
punched in the face at work?
Are you running scared?
And now he's expressing how he wants to hurt me. Oh, what a fine line between love and hate we weave. Yeah. When somebody points out that they don't have the same feelings and aren't as obsessed with you, you want to express how you want to hurt that person, do you? You're like a creepy little stalker.
I mean, you're right. So this is the sort of behaviour you're doing.
Stutter for me. Yeah, that's right. I don't feel the same way about you. I'm not in the slightest bit obsessed about you. I never give you a second thought, but you obsess about me and tell my audience just how much you obsess about me. And when I point it out, you turn into a stuttering, stammering, creepy little man.
On here, aren't you, Nathan?
I still
You're as
think you're
obnoxious in real
really
life as
funny,
you
though.
are.
Yeah, now you're telling me about how you feel about my demeanour? Do we care about how you feel about my personality? You're obsessed with me, man. It's really creepy.
Well, I'd like to, Jim Jam, but this guy just interested in abuse. I'm happy.
See, now he's detailing me and my personal traits again. Obsessed,
Nathan, I think
creepy.
he wants to hurt you.
Talk about Nathan. I'm happy not to talk about you at all.
It's all you seem to do when you lose. So the moment we get to a point where you can't calculate mass attracting mass with Einstein's field equations, you start detailing how you feel about me personally.
You hide in your.
See? There he goes again.
You're scared.
And again. Creepy little sod.
He hides in arguments.
They're all like it, Arwin. I've only figured this out the last few days. These idiots who believe they're on a sphere are thoroughly obsessed with us personally. It's got beyond creepy. They can't beat us in arguments, so they obsess about us personally.
You tried to deflect, Nathan. We can all.
I tried to deflect. No, what from? You and your Einstein incapabilities? No, mate, we tried to talk about it for 40 straight minutes. You talked through it, and every time we got a beginning of a statement through, you'd say you didn't hear the end because you talked. And every time we got the end of the statement through, you said you didn't hear the beginning, ultimately talking through every word of it. And then when we actually get you to listen, you start ad homing us or detailing how personally obsessed with anybody that's put anything to you.
Whoever
Well,
asked that
it's a
question,
bit
you ever
like
seen
the,
Nathan
the,
anywhere
the
else? 'Cause I'm
rebellious
scared.
teenager effect, wouldn't you say, Nathan? It's like the kid is being told he's wrong, but he has feelings, so he's like, "No, you're wrong," and then he makes it all about the parent.
Yeah.
When he's being
Sounds very violent to me.
Yeah, they
No,
make it
it's-
all about the
it's rebellious
parent or the
nature of a
teacher,
teenager.
and it always becomes about them and how they react. And then it descends into them wanting to dox you or humiliate you, all about you personally. They never actually attack the arguments, and when we highlight how they can't attack the arguments, they'll wrap it up in doublespeak and ad hominem attacks and personal attacks, because that's all they can do. It's gotten to the
Right,
point
they-
of creepiness. You know, it's so overt now that it's literally creepy.
Oh, when you man up.
It
You're
turns into a
objective.
social little power struggle instead of addressing.
What else is he going to do while he
You know that's
debunks
what
the
Nathan
orbit
does.
of
Come on,
Mercury?
Arwin.
I mean,
Now he's appealing to
what are you
Arwin to discuss me. He's literally now appealing to Arwin to discuss me personally. Man, this is creepy
Like,
as
you
hell.
know that personal abuse is
Oh,
what he
dude.
specialises in.
You got
Yeah, now he's detailing me and how I behave. So you're obsessed with me. You've studied me and how I behave. My God, it gets creepier and creepier.
We can see this. The evidence is he never comes out.
Now he's making sweeping generalizations about how you, the audience, are all creepy and stalky and obsessed about me and how I behave and how I respond to things. Man, no, don't make your sweeping generalizations about how we behave, Rumpus. This is just you creepy little sod.
He's always in his bunker. He won't come out.
Yeah, back again to how I behave. Why are you so obsessed with me in my house?
Is that why you come here
You're
to speak to Nathan
cat, hide in your
personally because
bunker.
you like him?
Yeah,
Is that what it
Nathan-
is?
Nathan is not always in his little bunker. He was in my chat.
Exactly. Hold on. This is an hour a
With the ball
day
are
show.
going at it back and forth, no protection, right? So no,
Getting a sore throat,
Nathan does not only sit in his
So
bunker.
let me get this straight. This has now succeeded. Rumpus, the creepy little stalker, has managed to turn this conversation into all about Nathan personally. Yeah, let's not focus on the fact that we haven't got a sky vacuum or you can't do pseudo force-based calculations in reality. Let's make this all about how your side feel about me by sweeping generalizations in regards to how you obsess about me.
In action happening now.
And poor
Can't
Mercury
deny.
without
He
a
hides
North
his
now.
bunker. So because he's hurt and frightened, he just delivers abuse to people because he gets hurt whenever he comes out.
Hurt? Abuse? What are you talking about? I detail how you cannot do mass attracting mass in Einstein's field equations. You give us 50 minutes of obfuscation and telling us how you must do it with Newtonian, and you think that hurts my feelings? Not so much so that you're going to divine my thoughts, you creepy little sod.
He deny it, so he gets upset about
Now
it.
he's telling me about how I see reality, so he's literally divining my thoughts non-stop. He can't stop.
You've got your own reality, Nathan, because you reject the real.
Now back to divining my thoughts again. He thinks he's actually inside my brain now. He's divining my thoughts.
Well, I can, yeah. He's obviously.
You can? My God, this is creepy AF. You can see from my eyes, can you? You creepy little sod.
And the fact that you
Rumpus,
don't
you're
come out your
wrong because you're defining Nathan wrong. He's still thinking about the argument that you're avoiding, so you're just wrong. You're defining.
Owen, for the love of fuck,
wrongly.
that's going to do you no favours. Now you're divining my thoughts.
you hide in your bunker. These all things come together, and in which we can construct what the Nathan model is. And you're
Nathan model? We don't care to model here, you
What
dick.
the hell?
worry about the fact that your reality contradicts your view of the world. So you make
All you're constantly doing is talking about me personally. And the more I highlight it, the more you seem to do it.
I'm in the mainstream. Whoever said that, I agree with the mainstream, so that can't be correct. I'm delivering to you mainstream science and reality, so I'm not in the bunker hiding away from it all. And what's more, I come out and interact with people, unlike Nathan. So whoever just said that, the evidence completely contradicts.
What do you mean you're delivering mainstream? Is potassium mainstream? Because he says gravity's not a force. Is that mainstream enough?
I'll leave you to think on that, and I'm going to go and take something for my sore throat.
Okay, so I'm in a little bunker. What's your name? What's your full real name? You scared? Maybe your little sock account named Rumpus is a protection for you, you fearful little coward. You too scared to use your real name and back what you say with your real name, coward? Or you just said I'm in a bunker. You're behind a little faceless sock. Too scared to use your own name with the things that you put forward. Why would that be?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hello, Scaredy Cat Sock. What's your real name?
Rather quiet now.
Silence is deafening.
He was apparently clearing his throat.
I use my real name. Nathan uses his real name.
Apparently I'm a coward, even though people can contact me, they can phone me, they can literally come to my front door. My address is out there, but you think I'm in a bunker? Sounds like a great bunker. Where are you living? Where do you reside? What's your name? Are you just hiding behind a sock account like a little bunker that you sit in when you come here with your rhetoric and doublespeak and contradictions?
He's on deafen. He can't hear you, Nathan.
Oh,
He's
the
gone.
moment I asked him for some actual information to get him out of his little bunker, he went on server deafen.
What
Or
a
coward.
coward.
Total coward. Well, that's all I'm going to ask him. Next time he comes here, I'll say, you accuse me of being in a bunker, and yet people can find out where I live based on my real name that I use. I'd like to know yours. Otherwise, you will be deemed to be an abject coward hiding behind a faceless sock named the Rumpus. Because that's not him. That's not a person. That's not a real thing. Like his abstract models that he punts. hiding behind his bunker, behind his little computer screen with his fake name. You think you come out into reality? Well, give us your name then. If you think that that makes you somehow righteous behind your fake name, then you've got another thing coming, Rumpus. Let's get a dose of reality. You are in your little bunker with your little keyboard and your little screen that you hide behind. You're a faceless, nameless coward.
Very good.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.